I told him there was no way I was going to do that, even if it's artistic. Wait, sorry. Hey, everyone. This is Dork Day Afternoon. I'm Adam, and as you can see, there's Brian and Jeremiah and Chris, and down here below me here is Kyle. He lives in the boonies where they have really slow internet speeds, so his video is just not even usable. So
he lives where they pump sunshine in.
Me being on video is what we call a stretch goal in life.
right. Like we'll have to, I don't know, probably pay for the internet to actually get out there better ourselves. It's the only way to fix that.
It's like thousands of dollars for like 100 yards of fucking cable.
Yeah. Unless we can get Elon Musk, I guess.
We'll chit chat.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do that. You're gonna have to do that thing you said you'd never do to get Elon to get it out there.
He said he'd never do it, but Oh man, so we're gonna go around real quick. Introduce everybody. As you can see, there's Brian over here. Brian, say something about yourself.
I'm Brian, and I am overweight and hairy.
That's fair.
Join the club.
That's most of us. I don't know. Yeah. Jeremy.
Say
something about yourself.
I'm Jeremiah. I am not a potato.
There you go. Not a potato. Kyle.
My name is Kyle. I am not one of the foxes, but one day, maybe.
We've got some sisters.
You can take their name.
Does that work like that?
It does in our family.
Why not?
And then we have Chris.
Hey everyone, Chris. I'm the resident masshole, the angry one.
Boo.
I play Murph and Harrison.
Mute him. No. He mentioned Massachusetts already.
I said masshole, not Massachusetts.
Close enough. He did it. He did it.
Oh, he did it again.
Wait, I don't think saying Massachusetts is grounds for getting put in the timeout. But
no.
I think you're too lenient then.
We should make a rule about
in
that.
this one aspect.
Maybe.
I know it's one of my least favorite words.
Yeah. Hey, Kyle, we'll bring that up at the next union meeting.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Somebody call the Pinkertons.
Yeah, right. I don't agree to this union. I don't recognize it.
You don't have to.
You just need to get a union
You're
break.
the man. And our union's to fight against you, the man.
Oh man. So anyone out there, if you start noticing anything weird in our video, Brian is watching the chat for me, so I don't have to do that also. So
as always.
So if you see, and if anything's doing weird or we're choppy for some reason, please let us know, and we'll see if we can resolve it. This is the first time we've really tried to do live video at all, obviously. We've done some test runs with recording, but we'll see how it goes. So anyway, I kind of wanted to first off say thank you to all four of you and Bradley out there, because somewhere along the way when I got the crazy idea to do this, you guys all jumped in and went along with it, and I don't know why. I don't know why you decided to do that.
Greatly
but thank
appreciate
you.
it.
And
I've got nowhere else to be, man.
I've got nowhere to go.
I've got nowhere else to go.
Oh man, I didn't even mean the video part. I just meant the podcast in general. Like the idea of like a year and a half ago, maybe it was like January of 2022 when I brought the idea up to Jeremy. So
It was before that because January was our first recording.
Oh, that's right. You're right. That was the first time we did record. Yeah, for Encore.
And it sounded like garbage.
It did sound like garbage.
Total trash.
I'd like to think that I sounded great from day one.
You did.
You did.
There's no amount of bad recording devices that can hinder Kyle's honey voice.
Like, honest God, if it wasn't for your amazing voice, you'd sound terrible because of your internet so bad.
because not the internet, the background, the chewing, the drinking,
God,
all of the things.
Yeah, chicks.
So everybody, we're not
crushing the
doing
mute
anything to this
button.
when it releases, right?
No,
we are
this
not
is a
touching it.
straight-
So
this
so
house
speaking of
toilet.
which, Brian, mute or not Brian, I'm sorry, Kyle, mute with your keyboard and not your other
You have been
Basically,
telling me
button
that for
on
a
the mic
year.
anymore, please.
Yeah, you've told me
Ever
that for a
again.
year, and I've not listened. I apologize.
basically, Kyle, they were saying, if it wasn't for your voice, you wouldn't be here.
I feel good being used.
That's precisely it.
Mm.
I'm only here for my sex appeal.
Oh man. Well, this got derailed right off the bat. This wasn't
Right off the
anywhere
bat.
where I
Yeah,
wanted
you
it
knew.
to go.
You knew.
That's okay. I'm only here for my assholishness.
Yeah, that's weirdly that was one of the things. Yeah, when I was like
Balance.
thinking of people, I'm like, we need an asshole. Who do I know that's an asshole that I know likes RPGs?
Which teenage mutant ninja trait do we need?
I've played with him
Well,
enough.
we were actually just seriously just trying to rip off GCP, and we were like, we need somebody from the Boston area that just is just
Somebody-
terrible.
We need someone that rolls bad and is an asshole. That's what.
Hey, I've got that person in spades.
I've seen it done many, many times.
Oh man. So yeah, like I said, thank you guys. You guys have all been amazing over the last year, and also to Bradley, you were great on the encore stuff that we did up until it was on hiatus. So thank you too. And yeah, so I kind of want to start next. That's not really starting. The next thing I want to do, the second thing, would be I kind of want to go around and ask you guys what would be each one of your favorite part of the campaign up to this point. So we'll start with Wheel of Death. Oh shit, I know how we're gonna do this. I'm gonna
Roll a
D4.
D5.
D4.
Oh,
I'm
no,
not-
it should be a D10. Huh?
Oh shit. All right, we'll do a D10. Yeah, D10.
What's
good.
your favorite thing?
What is my? Well, we're not starting there necessarily.
By the way, in the messages, I'm pretty sure Trey is chunky.
Oh, is it? Is that who Chunky is? Trey, if you're
No.
Chunky, let us know.
Yeah, he is.
No.
Because Chris looks weird. Oh, that's just his face. Has to be Trey.
Hey, Trey. Oh man. Oh shit. Yeah, for anyone, Trey was in our Starfinder campaign I've talked about before with Chris and I. What?
He can vouch for the fact that I'm an asshole.
He can. He's
We
seen it
all
in person,
can. Everyone
face
can.
to face, sat like
fans
right
can.
beside him.
So
Chris,
can
anybody
anybody
that's
who's
spent-
The
listening.
United States government can.
People that
Oh,
have spent
that's
5 minutes on a bus with you.
People I walk down the street and show a photo to.
This started early.
We give Chris a lot of
What do you
shit, but
think
Chris
about
is
this
actually
guy?
we give Chris a lot of shit, but he's actually a genuinely nice guy. So
He
yeah,
sure
Chris,
is.
don't listen to them, but you're also
He
an
texts-
asshole.
He texts me every day.
Oh man.
He texts me every day because he's my brother.
I'm an M&M. Tough on the
So-
outside, soft interior.
On my D10, I rolled an 8. So we're gonna start with Kyle.
Ooh.
My favorite moment, is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, just out of curiosity, did you have a part in the
The
campaign?
Christmas stuff where we just kind of had to wing tertiary characters we didn't know about.
Mhm, mhm.
That was a blast. Just kind of randomly, hey, you're now Keanu for all of time. Or boy Keanu. Things like that.
Young Keanu. Yes, you
Yeah.
became him for permanently.
Yeah.
Was
At
that
random.
the Christmas one where that happened? It was just randomly. I
Yes.
was like, who's playing Keanu?
Yes,
Yeah,
because that was
Kyle
the
is.
first time Keanu was ever introduced as a child.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But just the randomness and the kind of general go with the flow of all that, and then just okay, now we're gonna do something completely different. Also go with the flow. That was really fun.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think the editing might have like taken out of that episode was
Mhm.
that it like I edited the crap out of that episode, and I don't know if it came across how like completely improvised it was still.
Yeah.
You know, that it was like I was like, okay, now we're gonna go over to blah and we're gonna do this. And I didn't like change the order the flashes happened to. They were still in that same order, and we just kind of like,
Mhm.
yeah.
That
It was like,
was
you're
the
gonna play
first-
such and such, you're gonna play such and such, you're playing such and such, go.
that was the first real role play hot potato we played.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And man, it
Well,
was awesome.
Yeah, because before that it was just well, no, that was what I called role play hand grenade. Because then I was getting everybody with it. The hot potato was when it was like, hey, we're doing this flash to the side with Kyle and like Cole.
Yeah.
Boom, go. You know, and
Yeah.
it's like next thing you know, he's getting punched in the face by some Russian. Yeah, and or like there was the stuff with Keanu at one point. There was stuff, but yeah, same kind of thing. No, I loved the Christmas one. D4. Chris.
I bet it's
dip?
being paralyzed for
Episode 12, whatever makes a soldier sad.
That would be the least.
But my favorite time was finally getting to shoot that dog.
Hey, but it became a meme, right? We were just trying to subdue you.
I'm just trying to subdue you.
I've got two, and I know you're asking for one, but I'm still giving two because I double dipped.
Quit cheating, Chris.
Stop arrogating.
Back on it. Even now.
Because to me, they were both like stepping stones. The first one was our first real battle at the camp, where the A-10 flew over and took out the camp, and then we went and that was our first like battle where we were having to actually coordinate amongst each other, and it showed me and hopefully you guys that we can do this. Like, we can have combat and it goes smoothly and there are no issues, and I thought that was a stepping stone. Like we made it to a first
tree
tier.
Genocide.
Yes. I was also gonna add that's the angriest I've been on this show. And the
Little did we know that that Chris was one of the villains in Lord of the Rings for all the Ents that he killed in that episode.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the second one is the Battle of the Church, because that took that minor battle at the camp and put it on a macro scale. Like that was a really coordinated battle where Adam and then Kyle are having to control however many enemies. There was like 30 total at one point. And then all of us, I mean, there was a lot of battle and it went relatively smoothly. Plus I got to do a bunch of headshots, which was cool. But those are my two. The battle at the church was intense. I remember not being able to go to sleep afterwards because it was so amped up. And I was like, how do I just go to bed now? So yeah, that I loved that. So that's my answer.
You're muted. Muted.
I muted on purpose. I said that's
not
my
you,
answer.
Adam.
Nope, Adam, you're still talking.
There we go. Now I'm good.
There you go.
There we go.
See, if you only ever use like the button in front of you, you never get confused.
Yeah, but if he only uses the button in front of him, I gotta sit there and edit every last
He
bit
put
of
him in
it out.
timeout.
So Kyle's now officially the first person to get put in timeout.
And I'm happy that you were the first person to mute and unmute themselves at the wrong time.
No, I was on the wrong screen when I was pushing M. Now I don't remember what the fuck I was going to say. Oh no, what I was saying was that that church fight was spread over like 3 sessions. I think it like started like in one because
I think we did it in 2. We had like the first round, a break, and then we did the other one all the way through.
Well, because we stopped where I stopped you guys with the AT4 shot also.
Yeah.
Right.
Like where it ended the episode. Yeah. So it started in that one, and then it was another 2 after that, I think.
Well, it also stopped when I got a crit in my arm, my hand.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So it was like 3 sessions.
NPCs.
Yeah.
It was at least 3. And depending on where you want to say the fight started, it might have been 4.
Yeah. 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 That's true too. Because there was all the stuff before that. It might have been more if you include
then
all
going out and finding the speaker boxes, they're rigged to blow, and like all that other shit. That's
what I was saying. That was in between. We had like a first round church fight, and then we had the church fight.
Yeah.
There was like a space in between the 2.
The speaker boxes were definitely Harrison's finest moment.
But yeah, so for a little bit insider baseball, anybody out there, generally when we record, what we try to do if there aren't technical difficulties, is get like at least 2 episodes worth of audio in a session. So, and yeah, doesn't always work exactly, but that's our general goal sometimes. So that's why I was saying that about it getting split up that way.
Unless Kyle's running late, and then we're lucky to get one.
And then we're lucky to get 1.5. Or suddenly someone's internet drops out, or thunderstorms, or power goes out, or whatever. So, but generally our goal is that, and like you can't really do. I mean, we could do a full session as one thing, but I just don't feel like anyone wants to sit and listen to it for 2 hours. And I know Shane's probably out there, and he'd probably disagree and say that we should, because he's listens to us on binge anyway. So, but yeah. 1 hour. 1 hour is the most we're going to do. I don't think anyone else would listen longer than that. But
I think the internet issues shouldn't be discounted either. We have a lot of technical issues for the beginning. We always get a late start.
Yeah, sometimes that's internet. Sometimes it's just us us rambling. But whatever. But
Shane wants a mega episode.
He wants a mega episode every day. A mega episode.
So an
Every
hour
day
15.
Every day I need 2 hours of Dork Day.
Man, I don't know. Yeah. Whew. That would be poorly edited.
That would be a
very poorly
untenable
edited
schedule.
Yeah.
Oof.
But my therapist says that's what I need.
Oh man. All right. Brian. Sorry, pointed the wrong way. Brian. I'm mirrored. I'm not mirrored, so it's confusing. Brian, you're up.
I guess my favorite moment would be oh man. I think the 2 moments that stand out the most to me is for sure the church fight. But I think episode 3 is where we kind of started to get an idea of creating a story going into this game. Like the first 2 episodes was kind of more of our first session, and that was really just all of us trying to figure out how we were playing this game and everything. And then episode 3, I think we kind of turned a corner and started to have more of a story, more character interactions, and then we've just built from there. So to me, that's a big one for me. And then I know we're not asking about anything else, but playing Delta Green as Dr. Zwicky, absolute favorite character. So I don't care what anybody says. That's my other moment.
And actually, no, I mean, I'm not saying that we should only talk about 2 Past Midnight. Like, I think we should be able to talk about Encore. We should be able to talk about Delta Green, anything we've done up to this point. Like, so yeah, table's open on all that. So
and Shane, listen to your wife. Happy wife, happy life.
I'm not watching the chat, so I don't know what it was.
He said his
that's why I
wife
have
is here,
Brian
and
on
she
it.
says 1 hour is what works.
I agree. Anything longer than an hour would be too much. It would get redundant. Nobody wants to listen to us for longer than an hour.
Of course, I say that, and I'm the only one that's single. But whatever.
Yes, that you saw me shaking my head, right?
Yeah, don't take marriage advice from Chris.
Ever. No, ever.
Oh man. All right. Well, since it's been everybody except for me and Jeremiah, I'm gonna GM Fiat. Jeremy goes next.
You son of a bitch.
Sorry. The dice ruled up to this point, and I don't feel like rolling them again. Let's see.
Sure the dice didn't roll the
50-50.
last time.
Oh, look, it's Jeremy. It's 3.
You're so full of shit.
I did roll it. I actually did roll it.
Yeah, but you didn't decide who was who until after.
Yes, I did. It's all been going from like left to right, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Man,
The
that's a
dice just
tough.
said not me.
It's a really tough question. I think I have more least favorite moments. If that's possible. Man.
Do you want to answer that question, or
What was the question?
with the least favorite moment? You said you have more least favorite moments.
Well, I just mean like, especially like Twilight 2000, like there are definitely some points where I don't know if maybe the listeners are aware, but there are points where I fucking some of those breakdowns are like legit. So it's just like, it's rough. So yeah, I don't know. Favorite part is tricky. It's gonna sound cheesy because honestly, it's like once a week. My favorite part is just getting together once a week and playing RPGs. Like I really I don't care. There you go, Brian. There you go. Yeah, no, honestly,
sappy SOB.
I am look. I'm the sappy son of a bitch in here.
You can't make me cry this early.
I can try.
Not this early, maybe later.
Get 2 or more of those drinks in.
I'm already empty too.
But no,
we're gonna end the stream with Brian singing Tora Laura Laura. Like
awesome,
fantastic, like, just tears rolling
falsetto. Honestly, some of my favorite moments haven't been released yet because there's a joke that takes 10 minutes to actually land, and it is probably one of my favorite fucking bits. I can't believe it. It's one of my favorite jokes that we tell, and it's so fucking dumb. And the draw out for it is so long. To date, that's probably my favorite. It's one of the best jokes that we've had. It's next. It's up there with the marbles of modern medicine.
And that's the only reason we didn't cut the first 3 garbage episodes of
exactly
because it all leads up to that.
There's so many jokes.
Hey, we can just kill Kyle.
We'll just kill him. We'll pour these marbles down his throat, kill him, and then we'll move on and get a cleric.
Oh man. Okay, so the thing Jeremy's talking about that hasn't been released yet, because we might as well say it now since you brought it up. I mean, why not? Like, you're still working on the editing for it, right?
Oh, I'm very behind.
Right, but what's the secret? And we've got something else coming out now ahead of it.
Yeah. So after Cyborg, we are going to be releasing a run through of
Into the Odd.
There you go.
Which is, honest God, I'd been waiting so long to play that damn game. And now that we finally played it, I want to play more of it. It's fantastic. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And we got Brian. So Jeremiah was actually the GM. Is that what it's called in that? I can't remember if it's GM in that or if there's some other referee or whatever the term is for it. But
yeah, I think it's
whatever the nomenclature for the person that's running the rules of the game. It was that guy. And so then that put Brian and I and Chris as PCs. Kyle didn't play in that one, and it was ridiculous and amazing. It was so much fun, and I'm really looking forward to listening to it. But yeah. All right, so my favorite moment, I guess I'm next. I'm gonna pick 2 also. I'm gonna cheat because I'm the referee and I can do that. I might pick 3 if I get halfway through and decide that there's a third one. But I think my favorite moment and everything we've done in the last year so far has been first off, like I think episode 12 for us, by the way, and I know Chris hates it because that's when Murphy got paralyzed, but that build up to that fight in that episode was so intense.
You
like from a referee standpoint,
so much.
Like as a referee and as someone who knew at least, like Kyle, I haven't known as long, but I've known Chris for a while, and I've known Brian and Jeremiah. I've known Jeremiah his whole life, and Brian since I don't know.
Kindergarten.
Forever. Yeah, since they were in
kindergarten.
Yeah. And
that's when I met Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I kind of, during that build up to it, I knew kind of where most of the people's buttons were. And I quite intentionally, as a referee, was poking them. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't mean the characters, I meant the players. I knew where the players' buttons were. That's kind of an asshole move on my part, but I was trying to elicit a certain kind of response, and it worked. So, and but anyway, yeah, that the tension and that buildup of that up to that fight, I thought was amazing, and it made me so happy that it came out the way it did. And
for the record, Chris is not the only asshole.
That's true. No,
Chris, you're an asshole. He's a monster. It's totally different. Well, it's not totally different.
I mean, I see it like Stanley Kubrick, like in The Shining, but that's not a good comparison because that was kind of terrible. But also, it's a great movie, so whatever. Um, but yeah, so I was a little bit trying to poke people's buttons to because I knew that they weren't, you know, I kind of knew how it was going to turn out, and I didn't want it to just be dry, and it seemed fun to make it really dramatic. So yeah, so that build up in that fight, I loved. There was a moment in Encore that was one of my favorite things we've done up to this point, and it was when Ash was my character Ash was in the plant. Like I love those kind of moments because I'm a player in that for anyone that doesn't know, and yeah, it's I love that.
That was a good build up for
that
that
was
one.
that. Yeah, that was nuts.
Yeah.
Because you leaned into dragging that out
Oh,
too.
fuck yeah. I'll do that as a player too, man.
Make that like a much more dramatic moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'll lean into it as the referee, but I'll also lean into it as the player because it's like this is my character's moment. Let me like milk every bit of drama out of this die roll I possibly can, you know? Yeah. And yeah, all of Delta Green. I loved our run of Delta Green. That was so much fun. But I just in general love that game. So but yeah, I'd say those are my three favorite things we've done up to this point so far. That are
I'd
out
like
there.
to put in my least favorite is any scene that I was in with Jacob.
My goal at this point is to make Kyle fall in love with Jacob. That's my goal at this point.
That is a lofty goal.
Yeah, everybody else has except Kyle.
Kyle's like, no.
Except Kyle.
Not gonna happen.
All right, so let's move into the recap area of this whole conversation. So when we started off, I think all I told you guys, because it's in the episode 0 where we made the characters, right? Like there's at the end where like we've made the characters, yada yada. We've gone through the whole hour, which edited down turned into almost 2 hours of audio, which was actually like 2.5 or maybe a little bit more than that of us on like making the characters, just trimming it, down. And anyway, at the end of it's when I told you guys that your characters were going to start as POWs. You guys didn't know that until that moment. Right? Like that was not like I didn't give you guys like any I might have clued Jeremiah in.
I'm trying to remember.
Because you guys have lunchtime conversations and everything else.
Yeah, but those lunchtime conversations are not as informative as you think they are. So a lot of times they're Jeremy being like
stop calling me.
Or
I got work to do.
About bitching about emails that we're getting for like paying work, God damn it.
Yeah. Well, no, there was one thing. There was something about I don't remember what it was. It was in the sniper fight. You said something like, "Oh, blah 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 blah," and I was like, "Oh yeah, that would be funny." Like it was right before the sniper.
It was right before the sniper fight.
Yeah,
I said something about it would be funny if you brought in a sniper, and you're like, "Oh yeah, it would."
Oh,
be
that's
weird.
interesting. Yeah. And it was like I'd already drawn the encounter cards for those, for like those sessions, and was like sitting there with it going, "Oh yeah, that would be interesting." Yeah. Next session, bang. But yeah, so what did you guys think of where it started with the whole starting in a POW game?
It was jarring because like even from the beginning, we didn't know if the dude who popped in was friend or foe. We didn't know where on the map we were going to start. We weren't really sure. We'd kind of picked, who our buddies were, but we didn't know our relationships with any of the other characters. And then it was immediately to a fight or flight. And I know me for one didn't successfully fall into the concept of how the combat worked real perfectly from the get-go.
Oh, so, none of us knew.
So
none of us knew.
There was the stress of that and trying to get to a vehicle that I can't remember if it worked or didn't work, and then trying to get out of there through what may or may not have been a hole in the wall. And it's just like, oi.
Yeah, there was no gas in the truck was what it was. It worked. Yeah, they had all the gear in the back of it, but there was no gas in it.
Yeah, it was very much still that, like I said, the first 2 episodes were very much still all of us like, wait, how does this work again?
Point of order. That's the only time we found 50 cal ammo.
That's because all of that gear came from character creation.
Yeah.
That was just me story-wise being like, and here's your gear from character
Mysteriously,
creation.
all
Well, to
of your
be
stuff
fair,
is in
that's
the
the only
bag.
249 ammo
Weird.
we've found either.
No, well, that's
No, you just use M16 ammo. It's the
you just
same
put the
ammo.
magazine in the side.
Yeah, you just put a mag, or you take the belt clips and clip together a new belt of ammo. Yeah.
You got to collect up all those little clips, and then you got to bend them and make sure that.
Okay, we got a message from. Sorry.
Come on, Grandpa, get your reading glasses.
Yeah. Anyways,
What happened?
I'd be remiss.
I'm just happy I don't have to edit out.
No, I'd be remiss if another favorite moment, and this goes back to us starting in a POW camp.
Don't point at me.
No, sorry, no, and it was just hit on in the messages. Shane said the POW intro is what hooked him, and I think Adam's intro with the clock on the wall set the tone for us, for everybody. Like that set the tone for the show.
And if you look behind Chris,
yes,
I try to point in the right direction.
Yeah, I do have that clock, and it is set on 2 past midnight. But that intro, like, set the tone for the show. Like, it was kind of like bleak and dreary, and yeah, it was cool. Like, that sold me really quick. But it was, like Kyle was saying, it was difficult. It was like, you guys are in a POW cell, and a guard is walking towards you. Go.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Cry. Just cry a lot. See what happens.
Yeah, there's layers to how screwed up that
Let
was.
me taste
by
your
the way.
tears.
Like, because I mean, oh man, because I was trying to think of a cool way for like there to be an escape, and I had to like build it in because I didn't want you guys to spend the whole first session trying to like figure out how to escape, because that's not an interesting thing. But the guard going through and like killing the prisoners, like I really wanted it to have this like kind of ambiguity that it was almost a mercy killing. You know what I mean? Like he was putting these people out of their misery because they weren't about to just open the doors and let them just go. But also, I'm not saying that it was the right thing to do. I'm just saying like I wanted it to start on a very dark note, and that seemed like the darkest place was the, stop wasting your ammo thing.
Oh, no.
And then he went to hand him the knife, like, yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't the darkest place, because you have shown us that there is deeper, darker places in Adam's soul that we have all trudged through.
That's why I wanted to start there, so everyone knew what to expect later, where it was going to go.
This is the midpoint.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Episode 8.
What about episode 8?
Episode 8.
What is episode?
Oh, episode 8 was the unbearable lightness.
That was Jeremiah's breakdown.
I almost can't even listen to that episode. I know it's great. It came out great. I listened to it and I edited part of it, but it's rough. It was rough. But yeah, that was leaning into that the tone of the game entirely, in that like the gravity of the situation,
Yeah, and that's another thing too, is Jeremy has a tendency to dive really far into his characters sometimes.
A little too far, probably
a little too far sometimes, and yeah. I mean, it's good. It's great for radio, but it also ends up us having conversations afterwards sometimes.
Yeah, the conversations afterwards, like, Jesus fuck, man, like, goddamn.
For those of us whose episodes all run together in our heads, what was episode 8?
Episode 8 was the one where you guys ate the bear, which is where the unbearable lightness.
Yes, that's
and it was a pun. And
yeah, it's funny.
And that was the one where Jacob has the breakdown,
out.
like right at the end. Yeah, when he failed his coolness under fire roll for all the stuff.
Fun fact for people who get too far into character: that is why every time that I sit down to play 2 Past Midnight with you guys, I wear a bear shirt is because of shooting that bear in that
episode. I saw the bear shirt before, and I never even like put it together with it was because you one shot at that bear.
Yep, that is why anytime I play Emmett, I wear the bear shirt.
Speaking of shirts, for all you people watching, we've all got gear on. That
it's backwards. They printed yours backwards.
You should contact them and return.
You should call them and have them fix it.
Yeah.
Actually, I thought about this before. What I should do is make them so that they're mirrored, so that like just for us, so we could buy them and wear them on stream, and I wouldn't have this issue with pointing, which direction I'm pointing, because then it would look right. But my room would be backwards.
That episode also showed us, and definitely me, that it feels like every time something positive happens, you need to wait for the other shoe to drop. Because it's going to follow with something negative.
Because I remember how friggin' happy I was at the amount of rations we got out of that bear.
Oh, right.
And like that was legitimately the first time in the game where I was like, awesome, I can focus on other things other than just hunting every time we do everything. Thank goodness. And then it immediately became the biggest curse of all. And I was just like, this fucking game.
Also, you guys totally could have treated that dog.
Yeah, well, and I still love the fact that I got to call Cole pee pants after that. Because he ran away.
I forgot. You called him pee pants because he ran away from the bear.
See, I was going to go back. I was going to go back.
Weapon.
Actually, a few earlier with rations with Kyle, because Kyle brought up the thing during the fight with the rabid dogs that like I didn't realize, but like during after the fight he was like, oh, we can eat these. I'm like, but they had rabies, and he's like, you just have to cook it up to a certain temperature and it cooks the rabies out. I was like, really? And that like literally, I went in and Googled it like right after. I was like, can you do that? It was like, oh. Shit, he's right. You can do that.
You can cook rabies.
Did not know that. That's weird.
Noted.
Mental note for the future apocalypse.
That was the point at which I was like, "Oh, Kyle kind of scares me now."
Yeah,
like as a human being, not
just as like
character.
a person.
Offline.
How do you know this?
Jeremy was nice enough to bring up having to kill Olaf, which pissed me off. But on that note, I'm actually going to go get Stanley because he's downstairs barking. So I will be right back.
Well, then I guess we will not talk about of lice and men. But go ahead. Yeah, take care of Stanley.
We can talk about shooting.
Nobody made you kill him. Nobody made you kill that guy.
I meant.
Spoiler alert. You killed that dog on your own free will, jackass. You never even asked for a medical roll. You never asked.
Turns out that dog had a cold.
Oh, man.
He just ate a cat turd and had the poops.
You know what? Tomorrow I'm releasing that meme of the dog begging for forgiveness from Murph.
Oh, shit.
It's been long enough. God. It's time.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You killed that dog because you're a savage.
Chris isn't going to hear any of this. Oh, and there's Chris's dog, Stanley.
Oh.
So, Chris genuinely loves dogs. So
I have thought a lot about had that dog lived, what would it look like in some of these encounters and how we would have used it. But that's all a moot point.
He would have died by now. Parjou would have probably killed the dog.
I was thinking the same thing.
Parjou, the dog would have hit the explosive instead of Cole.
What are the rules for urban combat with a cane? I mean,
there's my best friend in the world.
The sad part is this goes back to the Jeremy and I conversations on the side. There was definitely a point early on where I told Jeremy, I was like, I'm not going to kill Olaf. I'm going to get the party to kill Olaf.
Yeah, that was like as soon as the dog
so
showed
much
up.
darker if I make that happen.
No,
why?
Which is definitely
the way you are.
Party to kill Olaf.
Which, like, from a GM perspective, that's why I went in that moment. I'm like, oh, so you're going to feed some of the rations to Olaf too? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, definitely. Write that down.
Oh, yes. Yes, feed the irradiated rations to Olaf. Oh, yes. Okay, yeah. You sick monster.
I just had to make sure it was, like, stated for the record, yes, we fed some to Olaf. I was like, done.
Yeah. Say it out loud. Can you say that louder into the microphone?
For the record, you're feeding some to Olaf, correct?
And for the record,
Parchy was terrible.
Olaf was killed because I didn't want him to suffer.
He was
Here's the
killed
thing,
because
as-
he refused to ask about a medical role.
Here's the thing: as a referee and the person whose main focus, not main focus, but like my secondary focus of this whole thing is us telling an interesting story. I have no complaints about how that went down because it was an interesting story. It made for interesting story, and I think it was awesome.
I honestly think it was
so yeah.
all Cole's fault because Cole was like, "Yeah, I'll put it down for you." From the get-go, and then it just became Murph being like, "No, I'll do it," instead of us actually assessing the situation.
Well,
So
I
I think
think
the fact that Cole was just like, "I get it," didn't help.
Well, and then the funny thing is then that led into other things because then there was like the fight with the Soviets in the trees. Those 2 episodes.
it started with that before
no,
Olaf got
the-
sick.
Yes, that's true. It started with them shooting the CIA agent, and
Right.
then it led into Olaf, and then that led into Murph getting paralyzed. And what probably didn't end up in episodes, but was like totally in our like group texts back and forth, was us fucking with Chris constantly
About suffocating Murph.
about how they were going
Or
to kill.
shooting
Oh,
him.
it did. I made the joke about Lieutenant Richardson with the pillow. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. That was in there. Yeah, that was funny, and that's why Chris's response was so vehement in that moment to me, being like, he walks up with a pillow, because there were like Ned Flanders texts like coming up and like suffocating people. So that's where Chris's response was from, I'm sure. But oh man,
Jeremy already commented on it, but yeah, Shane said Parju was terrible. Still get bad feels for Clark.
oh,
I loved Clark. Clark
Yeah.
was a really fun character for me to play, and weirdly, like the closest me character that I've played in Twilight 2000. So like,
Well, then he definitely wasn't that cool.
Oh,
how's Murph
This
doing?
coming from the guy who just only plays himself.
I mean,
Chris
good Lord,
Murphy.
Chris, you named Chris, right? Like, come on, man.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised that the second
He's
guy's
from
name
Boston.
wasn't Christopher.
I mean, admittedly, Clark was from
He's an
Urbana, which was
asshole.
like what 10 minutes from where
Like
we all grew up.
20 minutes down the road.
Is it?
No, I
20? don't
lived in
think-
Urbana. That's
Brian
where
lived in
my
Urbana
wife.
for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
That's actually, honestly, that's partly why I rolled to see where he was from, and it was like Ohio, and I was like, oh, this will be funny. I'll make him from Urbana.
Jeremy, I'm sorry. I was just giving some of the ball busting back. I didn't mean
No,
to take
no,
us
no,
off
no,
track
no.
of your story.
Jeez, man, we were all just
5
having
years, man.
fun,
Come
and then
on.
you took it so far.
We're taking
Oh,
this
man.
serious, Chris.
When we get off, Jeremy's gonna cry in the shower. I know. It's-
No. I only cry on screen. That's it.
Only on camera.
Only on camera where it might make me money. That's it.
All right, action.
$45, Ned.
Oh man. Oh.
Oh fuck.
But yeah, so Olaf was introduced in episode 2. We're gonna jump around a lot with the then that was one of the encounter cards. It was like man's best friend, which was one of those, like, it was actually legitimately not a bad card, right? Like, I know that the lice thing happened at the same time, but that was not from the encounter
Unrelated.
card. That was from the camping roll, was where those 2 things were not related. It's just the poor dog got blamed for it by the party, which is fine, But I only bring that up because you guys have a tendency sometimes to be like, all of the cards are terrible and all the encounters are blah blah blah, and like,
They are,
there's
yeah.
always a bad side to it, and it's not always. Some of them are legitimately good. Like the hunters you came across with the food that you guys traded for food gave you information on where the direction of like now, did that lead to a camp full of a bunch of prisoners and then an A-10 flying over, and then but that's the same thing. That's that. Something happens and then you go, well, that's good. And it's like, is it good? Is it bad? And then the next thing happens. It's like, is it good? Is it bad? It's that old, that old story of like the farmer whose son, falls off the horse. And it's like, well, this is bad. And they're like, he's like, who's to say, and then like the military comes through to draft people and they can't draft his son because his son's now paralyzed. And it's like, well, aren't you fortunate? He's like, who knows, and it like just continues on that way. And I think that's kind of built into the game with the encounter cards sometimes, which I think is really interesting. That Free League has like built it in that way that it just goes and
It's
it
the
leads
lens with
itself to
which you
that.
see the world is
Right.
what it is.
Right.
Of
Right.
like good and bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
yeah.
can
That it's
you can never ignore the fact that we as players just like to bitch, and I think
right.
I
Right.
think
Some of
That's
us more than
ultimately-
others.
Really? Some more than
Yeah, no, yeah. There have been some times where our lunch conversations have been me yelling at you, but definitely those
there
have
have
happened.
hey, I
There-
think Brian gets angry at you the most.
I don't think so.
there's
No, I mean in the
Hold on.
funny you're a
Hold
monster
on.
way.
No. Hell to the no.
this is the first time where I just realized Brian's headphones are Bluetooth.
Oh, you just now realize that?
I never put it together. Yeah, because I
Oh yeah.
No,
Oops.
Brian, I meant
I don't
God,
miss.
not
I
audio
don't miss
only.
nothing.
Brian,
miss
I meant
nothing.
in a angry at Adam.
Oh no.
joke.
I am totally angry at him. No, this whole game is terrible. I've never felt so bad after playing a game in my life. This is worse than Monopoly with your family, you know? This game is like just awful. I mean, every time I turn around, it's like, oh, hey, there's more reasons to hate life. That's why I'm so happy when we had Encore and we had these other side sessions that we've done. It's like, it's the only thing that keeps me sane through Twilight 2000, because Twilight 2000 hits a little too close to home for a lot of us. And, I mean, it just really is a game that brings out the actual emotion of a lot of our characters.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, there's times where I've just really have struggled, like the day after, like I don't want to play again.
I need a week
I've
to
threatened
recover
these guys
from
that I've threatened these guys. If Emmett dies, I quit. I'm not making another character. You're not dragging me back into this mess.
You already made one. It's Keanu. We just have to.
right.
Problem solved. That was for all you guys that were like, I'm not making a backup character. I don't want to jinx myself. I'll be like, here's your backup character.
There's your
Wait,
backup
that
character.
what you? So making backup characters is what jinxed you? I gotta quit making characters.
No, that's
just-
Chris's theory.
No.
That's Chris's
No.
theory about backup characters.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. You make a backup character and the RPG gods are like, okay.
Well, then that brings us to
No. We know in this group what kills characters more than anything.
Being your
What is
buddy.
it that kills? That's right. What kills characters more in this group than anything is Emmett being their buddy.
Yeah. Again, that's why Stanislav keeps picking fights with Emmett, because I don't want you to ever make me your buddy.
But can we talk a little bit about the Emmett of it all and just how, like, the surprise of how god tier the roles are at times, and
Oh man.
just things like snapping the neck of a captain and inherently becoming a captain kind of things just fall
Well, I
into
think
lap,
part
and
of that goes into like how Brian plays Emmett too. Like
he plays him
he-
quiet, reserved, and then all of a sudden when it's his turn to step up, it's just like, "Dong."
well, because he doesn't do things he's not good at. Like he's like, no, I'm
Yeah,
not taking recon because it's garbage.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't do recon. You know, so
What's that? Somebody shooting at us. 6 ammo dice.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really hard to miss a target when you're dropping 6 ammo dice on somebody's head,
Yeah,
I've
and
done it,
and then
though.
there's
and you've already got 4 available before that.
yeah, and then you're rolling A's for like machine gunner, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I take a negative for like range, but I also get a positive for machine gunner. So
still
whatever.
2 A's.
It still doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't discount the amount of clutch rolls that you've had. It's been amazing.
Nope.
that is the
I feel that I have given Emmett to God, and God has smiled upon him in the dice roll. So I just leave that alone.
Murph, on the other hand,
Yeah, I don't know what you did to piss off the dice gods.
That's just
Yeah.
Chris.
Dave,
Like I said before, it was like, who do I know that's a little bit of an asshole and
rolls
terribly sometimes
all the time.
because that leads for more interesting story.
back to what Kyle was saying, or sorry, no, what Brian was saying and Kyle about, the how like negative it can be, or like you're losing faith in humanity playing this game. That's why Harrison is fun for me, because he's the antithesis of that. So it's like he's like almost like a palate cleanser.
See, like that's why
Speaking
I'm
of which,
Jacob, man.
Speaking of which, that was what Trey brought up too. Was the thing about Harrison is Chris's best character ever across all games is what Trey had to say about Harrison.
I freaking love Harrison.
And it's cool that like the audience seems to resonate with Harrison. I didn't expect that, but that's cool. He is
What can I say?
golden-
Forrest Gump's a lovable character.
well, it's
People seem to like that movie. It did well at like the Oscars or
It's
something
weird.
at some
It
point.
won some,
see, but I picture him as like Forrest Gump and a golden retriever at the same time.
But like his intelligence is the same as Emmett's. It's
It's
not
an
like-
average
No,
intelligence.
it's
average intelligence.
I'm pretty sure it's actually above Emmett's.
Wait, Emmett's is a D, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Emmett's intelligence is my D stat.
Yeah. So
So he's
Well, that
actually
was the thing.
smarter than Emmett.
Yes.
like when
But he's
Harrison
sheltered.
when Harrison came in, it was because we'd gone a couple sessions with Murph paralyzed, right? And that was me as referee just being like, well, I kind of feel like a dick. Like his character's just sitting there paralyzed. And as much of an evil ref as I am, I was like, what? You can have one of these guys. One of these two guys that are about to steal this Humvee.
And to be fair, it was Cole's idea to let him be a character because he's the one who didn't get murked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, but Chris was playing him through that too. Like through
Yeah, I was gonna
that
say,
scene. Yeah.
His lovability
was-
came out even to Cole during that scene.
Yeah, he's fun.
yeah.
He's
Hey.
fun to play.
Hey, Jeff Wilkins is in the chat too, and he said a few times you've had to switch from Harrison to Murph within the same scene, and said you did that really well.
He's not
And
wrong.
generally, I try to avoid that as much as possible as referee / director / showrunner for Two Past Midnight, because I'm like, oh my god, this is terrible. It's just Chris riffing off himself. But you honestly, when those moments have happened, you've done a really good job of going back and forth, and
And
I think it has something to do with the distinction in the voice, because you're actually doing a completely different voice for both characters. That you do a really good job of it. Like we give you a lot of crap sometimes, but yeah, you do a really good job going back and forth between Harrison and Murph in those moments.
No,
I
it's really
appreciate
awesome.
that.
There's like a part of my brain that goes, oh, it's two completely different people.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it just, and I'm sitting here watching you do it, and it's like, I know it's both you, but there's a part of my brain that's like, oh, it's totally two different people. Yeah, of course.
I appreciate that, and thank you, Jeff. Yeah, Harrison is I like letting Harrison come out to play. It's kind of fun playing that naive, want to make everybody happy and gets his feelings hurt easy, and he's like I don't know, like an innocent golden retriever.
He's the optimist.
Yeah, and that was kind of the thing, because that came about because we ended that session right before Harrison was really introduced with like right before Chris started playing him. Like we ended it right at the end of that shootout, basically. Like they had surrendered, I think is where we actually ended the session. And it was in between that was when I was like, Chris, do you want to play this character? He we can just say that he was kind of just going along with it however you want. And so then Chris kind of like developed who this guy was based upon that one thing, and Harrison was born. He was just kind of going along with it because he just wanted, his buddy to like him, I guess. So
And go home.
right. Yeah, and go home. So those two things kind of motivated him in that factor, but he was just kind of going along with it. So yeah, he
And
kind of yeah.
It is funny. I know that you hate when those two are talking to each other, and I get why. Like, so ever since those situations have come up a few times. I'm like, oh, he's killing one of them very soon.
It's almost happened a few times. It's almost
He's
happened a few
tried.
times.
He's
Yeah.
tried.
That sniper keeps trying.
Or the booby trapped horn, like that almost took him out. But oh man, but yeah, but that was kind of where Harrison came from, and yeah, he turned into like one of the best characters on the show. Like I love that character. Wow, we've jumped really far ahead, but that's cool.
Do you have a list of things that we're supposed to do?
I'm literally looking at like the episodes, like as we're talking, so I can kind of see where we're at.
I got a
We've
question.
jumped around Tarantino style, but yeah.
Well, as far as Harrison and Murph, that's why Emmett took on Murph as his buddy, because I'm hoping to wipe out one of Chris's characters at this point. He's already got two,
So you've picked which one you want Chris to play, and it's
that's
Harrison.
right. That's
Harrison.
right.
Just play Harrison.
Murph is doomed.
I gave him the Emmett kiss of death at this point.
I've felt it a bunch of times. Just it's
Twice
bad.
now. Well, 3 times actually.
Oh man.
I mean, Jacob leaving, I feel, was kind of the start of the curse.
But yeah,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
no, actually, Kyle had a question. I was going to let Kyle ask the question he was going to ask first, and then
Yeah,
the chair recognizes Kyle.
a lot of what we do when we come into a 2 past midnight session is I'm curious whether you're going to flip us back to the tank crew at any point in time again, and how long you're going to put between stints on those, because I actually really found a lot of footing in the last one we did on that one, and I'm kind of secretly anticipating going back to that. But I know you have a master plan, and I'm just waiting for it to unfold.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I have a master plan. It's usually in between. Like I have a general plan, and like then I'll be like, oh, this is a good point. Like from whatever has happened, I'm like, this seems like a good point to cut away to X or Y or something like that. But yeah, so it's you guys usually find out shortly after I've decided. Oh man.
It's not a plan.
But yeah, but like Parju, like the whole thing with sorry, it's going way back, but like the whole thing with the way Parju turned out was it was because I had drawn an encounter card, right? You guys came across that encounter in the Humvee, right? Like right off the bat, saw those people there before they saw you, played it out that way. And it was based upon that encounter card that I was like, well, what's in Parju for this to be the encounter card? So this is a little bit more of a
grinder.
Well, here's the thing behind all of that, and this goes like episodes in, right? Was like the encounter card was like a group of Soviets, right? And they have artillery that they can radio in for. And I was like, oh crap. And I'm like, well, why do they just have artillery? That seems weird for 5 dudes, right? That have artillery to call in for. And it kind of turned into like, oh, there's like a larger force here, and it kind of like developed from there because it's a relatively decent sized town, so it'd be weird for it to just be, hey, here's 5 guys, or whatever it was. And the fact that they had artillery that they could call for from like, a hex or two, like a hex away at least, was like, okay, well, let's go with that, and it kind of turned, Parju into a meat grinder because there's a force that was like there, and I kind of decided what size it was, and then that fits into like larger narrative things too. But I mean, that's how the campaign's developed, is all based off of like encounter cards still. So yeah, it was a meat grinder, and then an entrenched unit in an urban setting is not a good one to just go walking into. Like,
No.
especially if they have
no.
like if they have artillery, they have resources of some kind.
No.
Also, going back a little bit, the train went into that too, because Murph heard the train with that amazing recon roll, and I was like, well, what's up with this train? And like on the encounter card, it had a bunch of supplies on it, like ammo and food,
50
and
cal
rations,
ammo.
and like maybe it did. But like, so that went into it too. I'm like, well, if that's going to Parju, then why? You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, they're well stocked, they're well supplied, it's coming in from somewhere, like they have means of having supplies, which meant they're a formidable force in there. But
And that brought about the absolute shock of Clark. did not see that coming, and it was just like
It's quick.
Neither did Clark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a dice roll thing at that point. That was just a unlucky roll.
Mhm.
Yeah, even before we got into the urban setting, like there was a huge part of me, like as a player and like urban warfare stuff, I was like, I really don't want to do urban warfare. It's like someone's gonna die. Even before we went in there, I was like, no, one of these characters is gonna die. One, maybe two, totally dead. Like urban combat is fucking terrible.
And one of the scariest things about Pardieu is it was opposed recon rolls just to get away without getting, murked on the way out. The only reason we lived is because the tank lost us on an opposed recon.
I'll be perfectly honest. I don't remember what happened after that because I was making my next character.
That was when he was making Anna.
I was already on to Anna and Winkler.
I was actually building Winkler when that happened, when that was happening.
Yeah, no, I still have PTSD from urban operations.
From
Even
Pardieu.
people who post on social media that, hey, I just got the urban operation books, makes me wince.
The rules here.
Don't open that book.
The rules make absolute sense.
Yeah,
oh, they do.
I'm like, oh yeah, this totally makes sense.
Being anywhere inside of a city and doing combat is terrible.
Bad. It's bad.
And no, I won't do it anymore. As soon as we got into the church, I was like, how did I end up here again?
I have a weird distinction that it's going to happen again, and it's not going to be up to you.
I do not want to go down this rabbit hole, but I definitely have an issue of the inside the room with a handgun, but that's just... And I wasn't even there, so it has nothing to do with me.
Hey,
that was Clark that was taking cover in the artillery hole.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I actually was field artillery, and that was like one of the things is like if you're there, you just dive in a crater because the statistical probability of another round hitting that same location is really small. It's really small. It's an area fire weapon, so like diving the crater is honestly your best shot. You can try to outrun it. Emmett's just lucky as fuck.
Yeah, poor Harrison. Harrison's trying to save his friend.
Well, yeah, but if I'm riding a horse and it's riding me into fucking oncoming traffic, I'm gonna yell at it.
that session was one of the times where I brought in the like mini game random table things that show up in some other RPGs. Like, and it was just you guys. That was one of the things was I had thought about it ahead of time. I was like, oh, I'll just roll randomly for where they go, and it was like right before that started happening was when I was like, oh shoot, I'll just have them roll. That's way more interesting if they're rolling where the rounds are going.
Yeah,
because it like washes my hands of the roll like in a Pontius Pilate kind of way, and I'm like, good luck.
That built so much excitement,
right?
Real excitement.
Yes, because we were basically playing Russian roulette with ourselves. You were completely uninvolved at that point. And it was completely 100% like, what do you roll?
Right,
and we all took turns giving the dice a shot. Like,
well, and also thematically that kind of fit with what the card was, right? Like the fog had set in, right? There was fog, and you guys had like no visibility and could only see like however many meters it was, right? And this had been brought up online. Some people had asked about this at certain times. Was like, well, where were those shots coming from? Blah 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 blah. Why are they shooting at such like whatever targets? Meta. Here we go, guys. Here's your answers to these questions. One, Harrison was yelling his head off from like across the field of like destroyed tanks. Corporal Clark, blah blah blah, Corporal Clark. So someone outside of who couldn't see what was going on in there was like, oh crap, there's still movement in here. And the standard operating procedure in those moments is like call for fire on that same location, and they just started calling for fire. That was why that played out that way. As far as they knew, there were tanks in there that were still operable. So they were just blanket bombing the area. So there you go. There's your answer to that question. But
and I don't know that it translated to the podcast as well. It did. It definitely showed the intensity, but how tense we all were. We all had puckered assholes.
Yeah.
No joke.
That whole episode.
Because you kept saying things like, these blasts are kind of a big deal if they hit close. They've got quite a bit of a radius, so just FYI, if these hits, it's bad news.
Well, they were, and there were a few times a couple people were in the blast radius, but you were like 20 meters away from it, and so it was, and you guys lucked out on those dice rolls.
It was like a D and a D or a C and a C, and because Cole got hit and he got knocked down, but
right, but it didn't land in his hex. It was like 2 hexes away from him.
Yeah,
where it hit.
He was on the edge of the blast.
Yeah. And so then the way it works with the rules is that it has whatever its blast powers, which I think started for that one at a B and a B, if I remember correctly. And that's why I went B to C, C to D. So I'd have to go back and check. I don't remember the millimeter that one was. But
yeah, that sounds right.
Because I think they were like 120s or like.
Yeah, something like that. And I was treating, it doesn't really show up in it like that much, but I was in my head, I was like, okay, so the crater that Clark was in counts as cover, which affects the blast power. It would reduce the blast power by another step, basically, is kind of how that works. Or is that being prone? I don't remember. I have to look back again. But I was counting it kind of like he has cover and he's prone, essentially.
Yeah.
So,
well, you can't have both. It's one or the other.
Right. Yeah, you can't have both. Yes,
So
by the rules is
covered.
written, you can't have both. It applies as one or the other.
Yeah.
And you
well, I mean, but full cover. But
you do deserve credit for coming up with that mechanic.
Yeah,
awesome.
For that artillery. That was really cool. And it did ramp up the intensity.
Well, and that goes to like what I was saying, like storyline wise. I'm like, well, there's all this fog. They can only see this far. If people are calling for fire, if there's artillery in Parjou and they come across this here, like, how does that relate back to this? And it was just me tying threads together. I'm like, well, they have a forward observation point that was like bombing this tank. And that was another thing I reinterpreted one to be like, come across a tank battle. And it was drawn at a point when like it didn't apply. But I thought it'd be more interesting if you guys could like hear it happening
farther
when
away.
you guys were at the farmhouse and you could see it going off in the distance. And because I thought that was kind of a cool scene. And there's been a few times I've stretched those in that way, like with the train or the whatever, to kind of imply larger story. But yeah, and that was basically the guys couldn't see it. And so since they didn't know where they were shooting, they were just like, blanket, hit this area again. And that was where where the shells are moving came from, because it was like, they don't know where they're hitting.
Yeah, that, and I mean, artillery and mortars are all very much area fire weapons anyways. You're not... You're not going to pick, like, if you hit within 50 meters of your target, that you win. Like, that's close enough.
Yeah. And Shane was saying that he was totally waiting for someone to get hit with a mortar shell, the way it was going. And I was too. I legitimately thought someone was going to get taken out in that. Like, the odds of it happening were
well, I mean,
it was there.
Right there at the beginning, it was Emmett and Clark that took the one. I mean, both of us had the opportunity to take some serious damage from that. And I mean, we both kind of lucked out on it from just where we were at and the vehicle in the way.
Yep.
Oh, man.
When you mentioned the train, Shane also said that could be a thing all in itself, is their supply line. I could have sworn that Murph talked about that, but
you probably did.
Yeah, that was our thought. It's like, maybe trying to ambush a train on the way through, hit the supply line, but I think we were running with our tail between our legs after Parjou.
Yeah. Well, the train sound happened before you got to Parjou. You heard it off in the distance. And yeah, but I mean, but that's kind of the way these things have worked anyway, with the way the encounter cards work. And like with me connecting plot lines, is I'll be like, oh, okay, well, this is connected to this means this, blah, 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 blah. And then it's like up to you guys on where you go, and you may not go there. And then I'm like, okay, well, they don't go there, like they're going this other way, away from this thing, or whatever, or they're just not doing it. So
I think after Parjou, the idea of attacking anything else was the last thing on our minds.
I mean, in general, a group of 4 to 5 people attacking anywhere is generally a bad idea. Yeah. Unless you really have a well-planned, like, days of recon and you know exactly what you're going in to do,
I figured we were going to do guerrilla tactics, but there just kept being more and more people. And it was like, oh my God, and by the time Clark died, it was like, well, it's too late to pull out now. Like, we've already gone too far. We went too far. We should have taken out 2 or 3 guards, left and then came back and just like used harassing fire, you know.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing because it was like shortly after that was when because you guys got back to the farmhouse, and it was kind of in that same session was when I was like, well, I don't know if Jeremy has a new character yet, and I was like, fuck. And Jeremy had made Anna for when we did
Way
before we started recording, we did like a test run of just like, hey, here's the basic game, here's the basic rules, let's just try it out and like see if what we can do with it. And that Jeremy's character for that was Anna. And so I knew he had her sitting there in his back pocket, and I was like, here you go. Like
Yeah.
it's a chance to play Anna. And then we went from that into Yuri showing up, and I felt like that was a great point to cut away to like other stuff because that seemed really cool. And then that was the first time we cut away to Emmett's son Keanu, and I thought that was really cool to see that tank battle, or not tank battle, but that tank crew. And it was literally they all made those characters that night, like as we were like right before we started. It was just like archetype, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I just was like, use the archetypes and just
Yeah.
make up some characters so we can have stats for people and like what their role is on the tank. And Jeremy had already
I had a
had the
concept.
of
I had a
Lieutenant Kim.
concept.
Yeah. But yeah, I loved that session. That was really fun. And,
I did not like the session when Yuri showed up. That was just such a. And then to see what happens at motherfucker. Oh, it pissed me off.
Well, and that's funny too, because like my idea of who Yuri is and like how he behaved in the POW camp originally was different than what you guys ended up saying, like canonically, like in the game. And so I was like, well, I can't be like, no, it wasn't this. I was like, I'll just roll with what they came up with. Because my original idea was he was less torture-y and more like
Good
psychological.
Propaganda-y?
Yeah, more psychological about what he does. You know, that was my original idea. And then you guys went, and I was, all right, well, okay. You know, that's part of it.
And we could have fucking shot him.
Oh man. Yeah, so Shane was talking about the life path episode that we did, and like watching everybody flesh out their characters and how that was really cool. And Jeremiah, for the record, hates that so much.
I hate that episode so much.
He fought the idea of even including that in the podcast. He was like, no one's going to listen to it.
I legitimately thought about recording myself creating Gordy.
Oh, really?
I was just flipping back and forth, and I was like, I should record this because I'm talking to myself the whole time trying to figure it out.
Damn it! I would have told you to do it, and
should have.
So should we do that from
next
now on?
time? Yes, next time do that. That'd be amazing.
I'm
and then I
gonna
don't have
spend
to be there for it.
Yeah.
Edit it or whatever, or send it to me and I can run it through macros and be done. Yes. I think that'd be amazing.
Because I was just debating on, I'm like, ABC, okay, I gotta get, well, I could do this, but then I did this, and here's the mistake I made with the prior one, so I don't want to make that mistake again. And man, recon's so much more important than survival on this. I'm gonna add this to this. I think this balances out a little bit better. We have a mechanic. I don't want to just be, we just lost our medic, but it would be too meta if I came in with a medic, so I should just do this. Yeah.
Dude, these could be videos. I don't know what
100%.
why you didn't do it.
Noted. Apparently there is an appeal for this.
Oh man.
Noted.
Actually, this is a cool place to mention this, by the way, because this was part of the idea for this whole thing anyway, was to also announce some stuff. And this is actually kind of a neat thing. So our intention with 2 Past Midnight isn't to really do it as video in the future, just because one, I don't want to start editing video in the same way, and I'd rather just do stuff live like this. And yeah, that's the main reason why. There's other reasons why, but also I like things to be edited a certain way, and
it would lose quality.
It would lose quality, and it just wouldn't be as it wouldn't be as good as it is as audio only right now. But there was an idea for a show that we've been talking about that's going to be just video. It's not going to be audio at all, but it's going to be Twilight 2000 related, and it's going to be called Trial by Fire is what we want to do, and it's just going to be us. It's going to be half tutorial, half like playing out different scenarios. So it's going to be a little bit. It's going to be less role play, more just like here's the tactics, here's the rules of the game, here's how these survival things work. So it's going to be more about like the process of like these are how the rules work, because I figure two reasons. One, people like tutorial videos, and two, we screw up the rules a lot, and it'd be a
All the
better way
time.
for us to learn the rules where it's not having to be recorded for entertainment value. And it's like I don't have to cut out 20 minutes of looking through a rule book to be like, wait, how does this work? So that's a thing. And the first one I want to do of that, we don't have a specific date for it yet, but it's a thing we're developing, or I'm developing, and I think I've talked about it with everybody else. The first episode I want to do is have everybody. We're gonna do another version of like making characters, so it'll be like a video version of making characters. But the idea is going to be, since it's going to be less role play, everybody's going to make a character for a group, right? So it's going to be like, I'm going to make a medic, I'm going to make a machine gunner, I'm going to make a character like this or whatever, someone to fill a role in that group. But when we actually go into those situations, if it's a combat situation, we're going to divide the players up into 2 teams. So it'll be like 2-on-2, and they each get those 4 characters to play. So it'll be like in a combat situation, they're going to be moving and fighting each other with those 4 characters. So one player will control 2, the other one will control 2 on each team. So, and I will act more as like a literal referee is the idea. So I even have a referee shirt in that closet behind me that I'm going to wear for it. So
And he will change into that in front of you.
Right in front of you, and you'll get to see my tattoo on my chest. But
I did randomly put that "So you want to be a sniper" on the T2K Facebook page, and I don't even know why I got that idea to do that. I don't remember why, but that got more like responses and stuff. I don't know if Shane, if you and Jeff saw that, but that got way more interaction than I expected.
Yeah, well, people love the rules, and like talking about rules, and it's cool to see that interaction. But all right, so all right, so at least Shane would watch it. We got one person. All right, so so then we go into the Christmas one, which we talked about before. Yada yada yada. Then it was. We don't need to dive too much further into that. That was fun. That was amazing.
Christmas
and
was fun.
The one thing that was cool was I brought the idea up originally to Jeremy, like before I brought it to anybody else, because that's kind of shit that happens in our lunchtime
Because
conversations.
that's what he always does.
And then Jeremy said he hated it and it was a dumb idea. And then I told him what I wanted to do with it, and he went, "Okay, that's actually cool." And then we did it, and it's now my favorite thing we've ever done.
Yeah, it's like, weird. It's weird how you'll be like, "I want to do this thing," and I'm like, "That's dumb. I hate it." But if you're gonna do it, you should do it like this.
Right. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do. That's how I want it to, blah blah blah. Like it's gonna just be flashbacks.
Though.
Well, it seems like Jeremiah pretty much just poo-poos on everything, and then it
all the
tends
time
to work out.
Yeah, his general gut reaction is, "No, I don't want to do it. No,
I don't like change."
Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, well, because to be completely honest, he didn't even want to be here. He said, "I will never do video."
I said,
"Here he is.
I'll never do video."
4 months ago, Jeremiah literally said, "I will never do video," with that pause both in a phone conversation and via text.
And he was actually close to quitting just the whole thing.
Oh, there
was a point. Yeah,
there was very, very close.
Yeah, there was a point
very
where
close.
And now you're the one most worried about. How do I look? Does this look good?
Look, here's the thing.
How is the
I don't do shit
me?
half-assed. All right, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it right.
The fact that was straight into the camera is amazing.
Does this shirt make me look fat?
Yes, Chris. Everything makes you look fat.
Would you screw me? I'd screw me.
Oh man.
That was uncalled for. How dare you?
All right, so yeah, so then after the Christmas thing, we come back to when Yuri actually shows up at the farmhouse, and we have the whole interaction with you guys. And I know, like at that point, yep, that was everyone's response, and that was amazing because I'm really glad Kyle didn't decide to shoot, and I don't know why I thought it was a good idea to just have Yuri show up, but I was like, whatever, let's see how it plays out, and yeah, like that has turned out amazing.
I don't know. I like a good villain.
Yeah, me too, but
Well,
yeah,
it
and
makes
then
him
that
a better villain because we had a chance to just wipe him out, and we
Oh
didn't.
yeah.
yep, you didn't
Murph
take
was
it.
so pissed when we had that interaction because he couldn't move. So he's laying there talking to him like, "Are you fucking kidding me? I want to murder this dude." And he's just having to sit there and get chastised by basically his arch nemesis. Yeah.
Oh man, that was fun. That was fun role play. I like playing Yuri in conversations. It's amazing. But so yeah, so then we lead into the BTR, which yet again was another encounter card showing up when like they decided to split the party, and I rolled randomly to see who got the encounter, and it was the group in the back. And honestly, there's a part of me.
Which part?
We'll get to that, Shane, about the shot at Yuri, because Jeremiah has his own theories on this, but I don't even think we can talk about it yet with where we are in episodes, but because 53 is the only one that's released at this point. So
Which one's 53?
the 53 is the
It ends with them dragging the body, and we see the tanks. Sorry,
That's when we find out that Yuri's using people for fuel.
yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah. But yeah, so the BTR thing kind of happened, and it was yet again another encounter card, and I was like, oh, what does this mean? And this is another way that like the encounter cards have built it, was then I had to one, the fact that they didn't just all get wiped out was partly because deep down I'm not a terrible human being, and I did not want to describe a scene of children and elderly people getting gunned down by a BTR. It felt really bad, and
but that's what happened.
But yeah, well, is that what happened? Because Anna was, at the
and Lieutenant
castle,
Richardson.
So yeah, Lieutenant Richardson. I mean, it still turned out relatively poorly, but then that led us into Winkler showing up, so which is a fun character.
I do like Winkler.
Yeah.
Past tense.
Well, Winkler became Emmett's buddy because of his ability to handle the refugees coming across the bridge without having to fire a shot.
Yeah.
It wasn't a muscle thing. It was able to talk through it thing. And Emmett struggles between the I'm really good at combat, but I don't want to have to kill everybody.
Yeah. I'm so glad Adam is as good at editing as he is, because the actual speech I gave at that bridge was fucking incomprehensible. Because I got done and I was like, what the fuck did I just say?
You say that. I didn't edit it as much as you think I would have. Like, it really wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't edited down as much as you might think it was.
I definitely gibbered and stuttered a whole lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
For the record, Murph does want to kill everybody.
Everybody?
Enemies.
Oh, right.
And everyone's an enemy.
Oh man. But yeah, so then that would lead us into the village when you guys first showed up. So which that was the Dirty Dozen, or the
Yes.
I was so fucking excited.
Or not just that.
Oh yeah, we all got excited when we
The
realized
Magnificent
where we
Few.
were at.
Magnificent
Yeah.
Seven. It was a Magnificent Seven. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, oh my God, we get to do the Magnificent Seven. I was so fucking happy. And then
the Magnificent Few, which I love that even like the encounter card itself references this situation. It's like, oh no, yeah, we know what it is.
so fuck. as soon as you started describing the card, I knew what it was, and it was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Well,
that. Go. Sorry, no.
Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead. No, I don't need to control the whole conversation.
I was just gonna say, I thought that the topic may come up of like our favorite episodes or scenes or whatever, right? And the church is obviously one. That goes very different if the APC doesn't get taken out in the beginning.
Yeah, it does.
When Emmett pushed the roll and took it out. If that goes very, very, very different if we don't destroy that.
Look, here's the thing. I worked the math out. If he hadn't pushed that roll, it would not have gotten all the way to the ammo. Which means that if they didn't bail out, they could have returned fire with the machine gun on top, and they probably would have opened up on the bell tower, because that was where the rocket just came from.
The rocket came from, yes.
Yeah, that was where they were going to shoot. You know what I mean? And yeah.
Well, it just goes back to like Emmett being a badass, because you can probably go over every combat we've ever had and be like, oh, Emmett. Yeah, like,
well, and actually, if you want to go Emmett, the huge turning point was the speech inside the church that actually gave us double the actual NPC reinforcements that we had.
Yeah.
That's what really turned the tide. I mean, the rocket taken to
no. We totally needed that.
Totally saved us. Yeah, because we would have gotten just mowed apart otherwise. But the fact that we had double the personnel going into that battle is the only reason most of us walked away from it. Especially when we found out that it was special ops guys that were busted into the bell tower right there at the end. Monster.
And so I had a thought to, like, if that APC survives, I know it's not a tank, right? But it's like Saving Private Ryan. So when the tank just takes out the tower when the sniper is up there. So like they take out the tower. Oh, Murph is sitting here picking us off left and right. Okay. Fire rounds into those trees. Murph's gone. Then our tactical advantage is wiped right from two rounds.
Yeah. Well, and that was one of those things too, was like the build up to that, because that was, yet again, it was I did the stationary group, right? Like when the stationary encounters happen, and like what they are. And then I drew the same one that I had drawn previously when Anna and them had been taken by that group. I was like, well, this is the same card. I was like, can I just use it again? Because it talks about in like the referee manual that you don't have to, if it's the same one from before, because I'll shuffle them, right? And I was like, well, no, it's cool. If this is his group, like Yuri's people, why wouldn't that group show up here at the village? And then I just thought it'd be cool to have Yuri there also. But the thing that was hard for me, because this was one of those moments where I really had to like separate referee knowledge from like what they knew, because the tactic was to like bring the APC in as like a show of force, right? To like scare the crap out of whoever's left in town, because they didn't know you had an AT4. I knew, right? I knew that you had an AT4 sitting there that you've been sitting on since character creation, but I was like, they don't know. And I had to like decide whether, tactically what they're going to do in that situation. And I was like, well, I just have to pretend like I don't know. And even if it like walks the APC right into the shot, and that's kind of what happened. But yeah, that between his persuasion roll with the civilians and then the lucky roll in the APC, that changed the tide of that fight. And it could have been bad. It could have been really bad.
Yeah, no, that could have been
way
a
worse.
TK in the works right there.
Yeah. But I mean, in reality, like if you look at the reality of the game, what ended up happening instead was like a lot of the villagers died still. Like there was a lot of casualties, just not as many from the party, and like it still didn't go well.
Someone's still a little sore about that.
Operation Human Shield worked perfectly.
After Emmett gave his speech, I think that's my favorite moment of playing Murph so far. was when Emmett's like, no, you're wounded, stay here. And Murph is like, look, let me go out a warrior. Because Murph is like, I'm gonna die. Let me take out as many guys as I can and hope some of my guys survive. And then, then I'm only playing Harrison and not Murph. Like that's
well, no, Harrison be dead too.
Well, but that's kind of how I thought that would go down, right? And I liked that interaction and Murph being like, let me die a warrior's death. Let me go out there and try to take as many of them out as I can before they get me. And then Emmett being like, okay, well, you don't have to stay here. That's my favorite Murph moment.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. So wow, we've gone through.
We've jumped.
Those are the noises I usually edit out. Is me making sounds like that. So then we get to Winkler getting killed by the Spetsnaz that showed up, which I believe might have been right around the point where Jeremy was almost ready to quit the podcast.
Oh yeah,
it was around that same time frame.
Handing off. Here's all the things.
Yeah.
Here's username and passwords.
Yeah. I'm burning the whole thing down and walking away.
No, he wasn't gonna burn it down. He was gonna here's the stuff. Yeah. But yeah. I mean, and I thought it was more interesting to have a more dynamic fight where all the baddies aren't the same stats, right? And behind the curtain, a lot of the NPCs were actually Marauder NPCs, not just Soviet soldiers or so I had an assortment of them to kind of, if this were another game that had a CR system, adjust the CR back and forth. And then it was oh, well, then Spetsnaz. So it's the tactic was to hit over here, hit over here, hit over here, and then send these guys in to where they knew everyone was going to be at the church because they'd been ringing the bell the whole time, so they saw that as oh, well, let's hit there, and even then the rocket came from there. So, let's go take out something's going on in this, this position. And I was well, that's where they would send the Spetsnaz to, I'm glad Jeremiah didn't quit either. That was a very long conversation. A few long conversations.
It was several long conversations.
Yeah.
And even I, as Sergeant First Class, had to step in and go, I need to have a talk with you. The hell's going on?
Well,
thank you.
I'm as in the dark as the audience is about this because I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, a lot of things happen in the back sometimes.
Jeremy, I would not have liked that at all.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying, dude. Everybody loves you, man.
I appreciate it. I don't do this for all y'all. I do this because I have fun. When it stops being fun, then I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. And Jeremiah and I talked about that the whole time. Was we really wanted it to still always be we're playing a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's us playing a game and having fun with each other. And so we try to make sure it's fun. And that was one of the hard things too with that, because that moment. But I mean, I think everyone's table has those moments where the referee or the GM or whatever makes a call on a certain situation, designs an encounter a certain way, and it's it's fucked up. You know what I mean? And there's tension. Tension happens at the table. You know what I mean? Is what I'm getting at. And I think part of that also comes from, because Jeremy and I have talked about this before too, is the referee also has, or the GM also has to be having fun.
Yeah.
And in my head, what was fun, instead of just having a bunch of pawns going do, was have a dynamic battle. It just led to a character dying, which
I really just wish that
day.
Adam's fun was a little less ants under a magnifying glass and a little more hey, we all get magic items or something like that.
There's no magic in Twilight 2000.
I know.
No, yeah.
That's why the characters keep dying.
Yeah, me thinking about exiting the podcast was less about character death and the playing the game, and it was much more of the administrative side of running a podcast, and it was a lot of pressure, and there's other things going on, and I was oh my god, I none of this is fun anymore. So.
Yeah, exactly. And it was less about that, and I knew that at the time too, and we'd talked about it. It was
it was there's layers of things happening, that it wasn't just
at some point very soon we should get away from a Jeremy therapy meeting for a second.
Yeah,
and,
we
and
should
like move on to something else. But yeah. But no, but as his brother, I knew there was other things going on at the time, and I was like, so it's just okay, that's cool. Whatever you got to do, let's take a minute and let's just like, and I knew it wasn't about that, but that's one of those things that happens with, where something happens.
Forget that. I called you right onto the carpet. You got problems, you come talk to me.
Roger that.
But yeah, so it was less about what was happening in the game, and I knew that. Yeah, it's just what I was doing wasn't helping, and yeah.
Well, and just so the audience knows, me and Jeremiah decided to have babies around the same time. So it's like the stress level of just real life comes in the background too.
Yeah. Which I don't know if people if Jeremy wants that out there. I've tried to not bring that out too much, but there you go.
Oh yeah.
That's his business to talk about, not mine.
Real quick. Real quick.
Yeah.
So any extra stuff I'm doing other than like just showing up to play once a week is going to be a stretch.
Right, which is part of the reason why Encore got put on hiatus. There was just a whole bunch of things happening in the real world, and it was like, let's just
put
this on hiatus and take a step back, and we can like remember that we're just having fun with a game.
We do plan on bringing it back, not in the immediate future,
because I need medieval things at some point in time.
Well, and if nobody in the chat has listened to Encore at all, because everybody's too past midnight fanatics. I mean, I've got my Sorbo guy here and my title belt over there.
It's our comedy. It's our comedy versus our Twilight 2000 tragedy. So it's that balance, but the first 4 episodes are a little rough audio wise.
It was our proof of
sorry.
Yeah.
It wasn't you, Kyle. It was because we were recording on a 4-track, and then we started recording individual tracks, and like we got.
the first 2 episodes, I was still on like just a
headset mic
and everything else. Yep. Yeah, we didn't have anything yet.
Those first 2 episodes, I had 102 fever because I had COVID, and it was bad. I was loopy as shit.
Still very much proof of concept.
Yeah. Well, there were so many good jokes in it. Audio-wise, it's terrible, but the jokes are fucking ridiculous.
Speaking of the new version of that, or the new Trey, who is in the chat, is going to be part of that, correct?
Yeah.
Should be.
I'm pointing the wrong way. Trey, somewhere over there.
Chat that way, this way, that way.
I would like to be a guest player sometime, but we'll see about that.
Get into Encore at some point, because as much as you love Emmett, there's a part of my heart that is Sorbo.
God, I love
full on Sorbo.
Sorbo has some really good character moments in there.
No, well, Sorbo just like the Emmett has very much real pieces of myself in it, and it's unfortunate because it makes it hurt a little bit more when things happen.
Yeah.
And dick jokes never get old.
Dick jokes never get old.
No, have you guys seen the video online of where it's like somebody spliced together the Lord of the Rings thing? Like, you got my sword and you've got my bow. And then it says the barbarian, and it's Paul Rudd, and he goes, and you got my dick. And every time I think of Kyle's character for that.
For context, for those of you that have not listened to Encore, Kyle's character is Dick Silver Kid.
Which is by no means stolen from any other property.
Nowhere remotely associated with Wayne Industries, anything ever.
I think we're summarizing why Chris wasn't invited to that show.
Speaking of kids, sorry, my daughter was up. So
No.
and then I forgot to mute my mic, so I apologize if you also heard the toilet flush. When I got back, I was like, "Oh crap!" Because literally her bathroom's on the other side of my
I think we
wall
kept
here.
talking pretty much through the most of it,
Oh,
so we
thank
didn't
God.
hear it.
I was like, "Oh shit!"
There was actually this long pause where all you could hear was.
Oh no! They Seinfeld heard me flush the toilet.
Oh man.
Oh, Trey, fantastic! I love me an Oracle.
Oh wait, did you guys talk
Andy's
about
got
that?
a voice for it. Yeah, we talked about
Ish?
Encore. We
started.
No. I meant Trey. I meant
Have
Yes.
Trey and I talked about it?
Yes.
no. I meant
we talked about it here just a second ago.
Isn't
That
it?
Okay.
Trey will be probably joining us,
okay.
and Encore should hopefully be coming back sometime.
As soon as I get back into a regular schedule.
Right.
But you did not
No,
sing
he
happy
never
birthday,
does.
Adam. You didn't sing happy birthday.
I also wasn't the one using the bathroom. That's what I'm saying. My
Oh, that's
daughter was up. I wasn't wiping. I don't touch anything when she does that. That's weird. Oh man. But yeah, so I'm excited about getting to play Encore again when we finally get back around to that. So, and then we could do a recap of like what has happened in the Encore one up to that point.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what book we're in or where we're at, but I feel like I deserve some XP, and I did write an ending to that show that never got recorded.
You did, because you roasted me pretty good, honestly.
Well,
So anybody that was disappointed that Encore went on hiatus, I heard it from Brian. Like, you don't have to yell at me. He very very directly and pointedly tore me.
I
a new
love
one.
you with all my heart, but I won't put up with your shenanigans either.
That's fair. That's fair.
Chris
All
would
right.
still like to be a guest player at some point.
Oh, and real quick, the last thing that we
I wonder if
left
he'll
off
make a
on-
barbarian named Chris.
No. It'll if I know him, it'll be a champion named Chris. Is what it'll be.
It'll be an archer.
It'll be a
It'll be a
paladin.
sniper archer.
named Murph.
Oh.
Chris. Murphy.
Sure. So yeah, real quick, happy birthday,
From
Shane.
the land of Bostonia.
Oh,
Speaking of
happy
birthdays,
birthday.
yep. Because I didn't sing the happy birthday song because I wasn't the one peeing and
Layers.
what? Yeah, there's weird. So yeah, happy birthday, man.
Like, it's all connected, man. You know, like it's like
Because I'm the only one that talks with my hands.
It's like
Look, I don't hit my mic. All right.
I don't have to worry about the
it's
audio
like
editing.
Slim in the back of my throat.
Yep.
Oh man. So I'd be remiss if we didn't next talk about the sniper fight, which came right after the
Wait, before we jump into sniper fight.
Yeah.
I just want to point out, Emmett, 2 special operatives dropped them both.
he did.
Bottom of that bell tower, he dropped 2.
Yeah.
Not one, but 2.
That's right.
Hand-to-hand combat.
Yep. That is how, and that was also the moment where we realized we had been completely doing the action economy wrong. So it was after that session was when I was like, this doesn't seem to sound right. And then it was like, oh,
Because
action
it's not
we've
right.
been doing this wrong.
Yeah.
So, because for a long time in my head, I was taking other RPGs and applying it to this game, and having everyone's actions refresh at the beginning of their turn, which it is, and it's at the beginning of a round, which changes the tactics slightly. So that has been fixed, and
Yeah, because I still feel robbed. I think I should have been able to punch Jacob in the face, and I think you ruined my action economy on that fight.
No, because he'd be able to borrow his action from
But
his.
he didn't set defense. He didn't have a reaction.
You don't have to.
Well,
No, you don't have to
still
set
disagree.
defense. He would have had the. No, actually, that
I
one.
punched
Was,
Jacob in the face.
So,
That
I
one-
just want to point out this is why Kyle still hates Jacob. It's because he didn't get to hit him.
Correct.
well, he tried to, but Well, no, but that was still the right action economy because at the beginning of the round, you each get 2 actions. You get a fast action, a slow action. If someone attacks you with a melee strike, you can borrow from your actions in that round to block it as a fast action. That's legal. That was
I should've
100%
just
legal
knifed
by
him.
the rules. It would have still been the same. In his sleep, just sneak up and like,
yeah, shank.
Now you're dead, man.
regardless of Cole's feelings about Jacob, both Cole and Kyle hate Jacob.
It's gonna be great when Gordy finds a diary from Cole and just reads about his hatred for Jacob so he can absorb it. I'd like to transfer it from character to character.
I'm totally gonna kill you, eh?
Hate is transferable.
But yeah, so then the town decides to like go and try to find a safer place to live because, you know, it's been kind of crappy and, you know, maybe they want to go somewhere new. And then we have the sniper fight, which, was fun.
No. The sniper fight was Full Metal Jacket, but worse because I was in it.
Failed the recon roll, failed the communications roll.
Murph was cleaning his fucking weapon.
It was in pieces. It was perfect timing.
Well, it was funny because I already knew what was happening, right? Like I was already in my head. I was like, okay, it's going to be the sniper one. Let me go around and see what everyone's doing. You know, like what is your character doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And you just happened to be like, oh, he's got his weapon disassembled because he's cleaning it. I was like, okay. Which you do have to do in the game, right? Like at certain points, especially after lots of, you know, combat, like it's written within the rules. I could be like, hey, you got to do a, you know, weapons maintenance or your weapon loses a point of reliability. Like that's written into the rules. You just happened to preempt it, which was fine and totally made sense. And I don't really call for those that often. And, you know, it seemed like the exact right time for a sniper to shoot.
You probably should have done it inside the church, though.
Because that's the other thing, too. If the sniper had been observing and then they see the other sniper take his weapon apart, that'd be like, oh, now's a good time to shoot everybody. let me start shooting now.
You know,
and let's go for the person that's on the 240, which was the next threat.
Harrison.
Like that was a completely tactical like threat assessment. Who has the 240? Harrison was helping Stanisław put it on the 240. And so, but I had you guys all roll because that was way more fun. So
I done got my nose shot off.
It just felt like it because it pinged off his helmet and his face bounced off the 240. But
yeah, but see, the way I thought that was going, right, is it was post-battle downtime. We were gonna like shoot the shit with each other, probably eat, hydrate, clean weapons.
Well, damn, man, you don't get to pick when combat happens.
I know. I know. But I thought there was going to be a lot of role play banter, that sort of thing. And then a sniper came and my sniper rifle was disassembled.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That turned out really bad for you.
Yeah, Shane, I was kind of fairly certain that Harrison was going to die in that shot too. He got lucky. Very, 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 very lucky.
Yeah.
A lot of us did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought Murph was going to die too.
I did too. After I shot Doc, I was like, I think Murph's going to go down this time, or like one of the other times later. Yeah.
You know, I did say it even while I was doing it. Like, you don't do this. You don't go when a sniper is firing on somebody and they take somebody out. You don't go try to save them because then somebody's going to have to try to get you. Like, you're
right. Well, and that's yeah.
But Doc had just spent weeks putting Murph back together, and Murph sees him take a shot, and he's like, "No way! I can't not go try help him."
Well, and that was the great thing about that crit roll too, was I love the drama that like the dice do sometimes for the situation, because it was like the crit was like he has one round to be stabilized or he dies, you know, and it was like, oh, okay, well that's really interesting, because then that forced you into the situation of like I run up to him and it's like you're suppressed now. Like even though he didn't hit Murph, it was enough to suppress him, and then, or well, no, I think he hit him, but he didn't kill him. But it was like enough to like suppress him because he failed his coolness under fire roll, which made him lose that action. And then like, yeah.
Because because you had to get to Doc within 1 round, and then it was like, boop, done.
Done. There's that round. It's over.
You got to him, but you can't do anything.
Yeah.
You just watch him die.
Yeah. Admittedly, I
get shot.
Yeah. And that was so great that like the before that was the whole conversation about like, I was not even supposed to be here. My enlistment's up.
Yeah.
It made it so much better that he was the guy that was like, when I get back home, I'm gonna go to Yankee Stadium and I'm gonna get a hot dog. Bap. It's such a cliche.
That Dairy Queen flashback. Did you plan that, Adam?
Yes. This is what happened. So, first of all, I wanted to do a flashback at the beginning of the sniper fight with all the characters, right? Of just like, let's just randomly go around because I thought it'd be cool and dramatic to like spend that time focusing on everybody before we knew who the shot was coming at because it just seemed cool. So then when Cole was getting shot at, I was like, this one could drop Cole. Like they've been lucky this far. You know, like you guys had gotten really lucky from the sniper who was a legitimately good shot, you know, like probably should have taken people out. And I was like, this one's like not a called shot, or it's not a called shot. It's not a like slow aimed shot. It's a like, they're just shooting, right. As a fast shot or a quick shot. And I was like, the dice might go the other way on this just because of the situation. And so I was like, I got to give Cole a really cool flashback. And I remembered Jeremy and I had talked about this before, how we learned that Cole had kids from the Dairy Queen conversation, but way back in like Psalms 82:3 or whatever it was.
Yeah, I think
when
it
the
was
Dairy Queen conversation.
2 or 3, really.
Yeah, it was 3. It was 3 when that happened. And I remember being like, oh, well, now's the time to just have him be with his family at DQ. And it seemed like such a cool, like, hey, Stanley. It seemed like such a cool, like, you would not believe how many times that dog has tried to eat my pizza during a game.
You know what the crazy thing is? He doesn't know he's on camera.
He doesn't? Oh, the dog?
Yeah.
Chris or
Chris.
the dog?
Either.
Crazy thing is
But-
he just took that dog out to kill it for radiation poisoning.
But so the idea was like this might take out Cole, and since we're in between sessions because we ended with the right before we rolled the shot, you know what I mean? Like we ended our session there, and I texted Kyle before the next one. I was like, hey, I kind of want to open the next session. I kind of want to open the next session with this flashback scene to a Dairy Queen. Do you want to do this? And he was like, oh yeah, definitely. And so I was like, okay, cool.
And that's
That was
all
it.
the prep we really did.
That was the extent of the conversation, was like family at Dairy Queen. And that was it. And the rest of it was just, you know, the way we do all of our role play, which is like, I don't know, let's see how this plays out. And then Kyle came up with that great line about like, you know, not going back in unless, you know, World War III happens or something. It was like, oh my
man.
God.
Yeah. I think you got a challenge going for that. Cause that was,
Yeah.
that line was perfect, man. Like short of World War III, you know.
Yeah. Short of World War
Fucking
III.
Awesome.
Yeah. But it wasn't for the line. It was for the whole thing. I was just like, oh my God, this is so, but it was also because all the other characters I'd given slightly more cheery flashbacks for at some point, except for maybe Murph hasn't really had he had the baseball scene with him and his that was at the beginning of the Parjou fight. There was the flashback to him at the baseball game with Sully, his spotter, right? And they were just at a Red Sox game that was in Baltimore. And if anyone listens really closely to the audio in the background, you can hear people chanting "Go O's." And
Yeah, there you go. You finally brought it full circle to your obsessive compulsive disorder.
That was a whole thing. But so it's an Orioles game that they were at. That was why it was a away game as a reference to whatever. Anyway, I get crazy about details like that.
He does.
So, which is also part of mine and Jeremy's conversations. But anyway, so the DQ thing just worked out. And then when he did get taken down and it was Cole's turn, I was like, you know, and I did that thing that I do a lot where I accidentally call on the person that just died as it's their turn in the initiative. And I'm like, oh shit, that's right, he's dead. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's do the flash over to like what's going on there in that moment. And that just kind of turned into the back in the DQ, however you want to take that moment. Like that's up to interpretation at that point. So
Oh yeah, for sure. Cole has done some things. Cole has
Yeah.
done things and seen things that never got brought up on the show, and it's best that it never did.
Mhm.
I feel
Well,
like
we
the
were
Christmas
gonna-
episode touches
yeah.
on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we were going
yeah.
to get kind of hairy had that torture role worked out better in the church, but I unfortunately failed it because I was just kind of going to go lean a little more sadistic into that. But I didn't get the chance to. Unfortunately, the dice god said nay.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was more that they were like, "Oh no, this is not Emmett's bag.
You're not
We need to
dragging
punish
Emmett
him
down
for
with
that."
you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was because Emmett took a point of stress from failing the persuasion roll, if I remember correctly, or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, it all like worked out that way. So yeah, because he
Yeah, because
pushed it,
Cole was aiding.
failed. Right.
Yeah.
Right, because Emmett had the better persuasion. Yeah. But yeah, no,
that's
Cole
right,
definitely has a
right.
dark side that we didn't get really deep into, other than like
No, the
the
Christmas
Christmas
episode
episode.
the
Got
Christmas
really dark.
episode kind of touched on it, but yeah, that's about it.
And I pushed back on it with the Yuri stuff and whether to pop him the moment I saw him, because I was kind of trying to work into my own torture scene at some point in time. And I think that was in the back of Cole's mind, is that he was kind of going to pull a friendly bait and switch. And time just kind of got in front of us a little bit on that. And he yipped it when it all came down to it.
Murph was so mad at Cole.
Maybe next
Cole-
time, have the use of your legs.
I think Cole was probably, for me, was one of the most interesting character arcs that we've had thus far, because he starts out, as like a regular fighter, and then what you did with him, like as far as like how dark he got, and like, and then bringing in the family and like the ex-wives, and like
What was the lipstick thing?
The lipstick thing. He was just like one of the most three-dimensional characters we've had. It's like he's just all over the place. And it's like, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Is he? I don't know.
In the end of the day, Cole did not know whether he was a good guy or a bad guy.
Yeah.
By the way, isn't that the torture scene? And when Harrison objected to the torture, isn't that how Stan decided that he liked Harrison?
That's exactly how it is. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's also when Cole pulled a gun on Harrison again.
Yeah.
I was going to say, not the first time. Not the first time at all.
Yeah. Right? Again.
For the second time. Yeah.
But no, that's exactly why Stanislav picked Harrison as his buddy, because he's like, oh, he's not like these other guys. He's just a farmer trying to get by, in this world. That's fine. And yeah, he's the optimistic golden retriever. Yeah, of course.
Oh, man.
Yes, so was the one in the Red Fern Grove. So we'll see how this goes.
Didn't they also get buried by a bank? Is that?
Yeah, so then Cole gets taken out by the sniper. We have an amazing flash sequence of inside a very weird Dairy Queen with fog outside. And then Emmett charges the hill and sees the sniper coming out of the tower, and
Emmett
pulls an Emmett situation where the dice just smile on him and kills the sniper. And then
Who
the
you
GM
decided was a woman, you monster.
Yeah, of course. Why can't it be?
I didn't say
It's
it couldn't
sexist
be.
for you to assume it can't be.
No, it's just yet again another monstrous consequence of, hey, now you have to choose, do you actually shoot or not?
Well, that's partly because, one, I knew how Emmett was, and frequently in character you'd said things like women and children, then that very nostalgic old school way of looking at the world. And also in the back of my head is like, one of the snipers with the most kills in history was a Soviet woman, if I remember correctly, wasn't it?
Soviet woman sniper in Stalingrad.
Like in World War II, right?
It was Stalingrad, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And like in my head, I'm like, well, yeah, obviously, So it seemed to fit, and gave her a whole backstory, and it was amazing, And then all it was a picture of her and her family on vacation at the Polish version of
Myrtle Beach.
What's the Polish version?
And then we rag on Myrtle
Yes,
Beach for half an hour, 45 minutes.
That Adam thankfully cut down to like 4.
No, the rest of it showed up in the Patreon, I think. I think it might have. I'm not sure actually if it did make it over there. I don't know if I ever really put it over there, but yeah. It was going to. If it didn't, I might have it around somewhere if it hasn't. But yeah, so then we go into what happened right after that when we were playing was I was like, okay, well, let's let Kyle bring in his new character, blah. And I was like, okay, here's your character, comes walking up to the village like a dumb amateur GM was like, okay, here, yeah, bring this character in. And in my head, all of a sudden, he just walks up and it's like, oh, well, this is stupid. That was a dumb way to introduce a new character. Why did I do that?
It's
I
so
think
rude.
you set me up
It's so rude.
to kind of
No.
watch them for a while.
I didn't mean it was like stupid on Kyle's part. I meant like as soon as we did it and we started playing it out, I was like, that was a really dumb move on my part. Like I shouldn't have done that. It was too quick. It was stupid on my part. And yeah, and then we get introduced to one of my new favorite characters, Gordon.
Gordon's awesome.
So Kyle, what made you decide that he was Canadian? Because A, that's amazing. And B,
That's not one of the 52 states that you could roll on our table. 52 states to roll from.
I should have made you roll for what part of Canada he was from. Yeah. But you went straight for Quebec. Yeah.
I was going to say, being as the French, he's a little more Quebecois. But I just kind of wanted to do something that was a little different voicey and just a little bit. I wanted to go a little more chipper than the murder monkey that I had before. And I just remember the old SNL skit where they always made fun of Celine Dion for her French Canadian accent. So I wanted to kind of just lean into that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the other thing is like, I'm glad you did because Jeremiah had brought in Stanislav, which I'm really glad he did too. Like after Anna and bringing in Stanislav, because like in the beginning, I told you just make American soldiers just because that's the standard setting of the game, right? Like the old school, like you're American soldier stuck in Poland. I didn't want to like get too weird with like character backstories, and that way there was justification for them to be in the POW camp. It was easier on my side too. But then like since then, I haven't been like has to be blah, and I think it's good that we're expanding out into other groups of people like Polish civilians or a Canadian or like whatever. And as we go further, I think I as a referee would greatly appreciate variety in characters.
Yeah, and as one of the people who does not have as much of the military background, I kind of wanted to lean a little bit away from just a hardcore another military guy. So I thought the idea of, a Canadian French translator would just have a little bit like I could play and feign ignorance over military things and just be like, I'm just here to talk to people kind of thing. So it kind of gave me extra outs.
Yeah, but exactly.
Yeah, we've lucked into things that have very much gone with my character. I'm super excited about how it's going.
Yeah, make sure we don't talk too far about that because we haven't got that far in episodes yet.
Literally bit my tongue as I was talking.
Yep, thank you very much. Because we're slightly further ahead on recording than this.
Good.
Than 53. I know, right? I know we should be further ahead.
Thankfully,
we need like 2 or 3 more hours to like
stupid power outages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also
T-ball.
Yeah. So since we're talking about and T-ball, yeah, right. So since we're talking about Gordon and like Shannon was saying how he loves Stanislav and where he's going so far, like Jeremy, what was the idea behind Stanislav?
I don't even know. It started with one thing, and it was like, okay, he's a Polish civilian that's been in this town. What does that look like? And then it was like little thing after little thing. I was like, okay, is he married? Does he have kids? And I was like, well, he's a widower, because that's going to be the only reason why he would leave his family to go with this adventuring party, essentially, is like, the fuck would he leave his family for? Like, that's ridiculous. So it was like, he's a widower. And then it just kind of snowballed from there, like what that means to a person at that point, especially in this new, very awful world. like, like what does that mean? What does that look like? And then it turned into like just his goal of rejoining his wife. You know, like that's his big dream, is to go see his wife again, which sounds fucked up, but I mean, it gets real dark, real very fast.
Mhm.
Also, the other part of it was that every time I create a character with trauma straight off the bat, they seem to survive. Because Clark had a very generally happy background, dead. Winkler, generally happy background, dead. Jacob's still around, and his whole fucking backstory is god awful. Like he doesn't have good days. Jacob doesn't have good days ever, never. He's not allowed to.
It's what's the least worst day.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, well, you know, at least I got food. Well, that's a win, you know. But then Stanislav was very much like, okay, I'm gonna create a dark character because apparently they stick around, you know. And interestingly enough, I had another backup character when it was time to bring him in, and it was a die roll to see which one it was. And him being a Polish civilian was a really easy in of like, oh, he's just one of the civilians that was in part of the firefight. Done.
Better than a French Canadian that just happens to be wandering the countryside.
Yeah. Oh, I hear a gunfight. Let me go check it out.
Let me go check this
I
out.
opened fire.
Hey guys.
Nope. I opened fire.
That was my favorite. Brian was
God.
like, I opened fire.
Oh god, the comedic timing was perfect.
It was so funny. And then he actually rolled the shot.
Yeah.
I would have killed him too.
Well, I for
Black
one,
jacket or not.
I for one, am glad that Mr. Stan's around.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
seriously, the friendship between Harrison and Stanislav's amazing. And like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that leaves a really good space for interesting story to like things we can do with that, because Harrison is, honest to God, I freaking love Harrison as a character. He's awesome. But yeah, it really gives an interesting opportunity to give Stanislav new meaning in life. You know, something that he just doesn't he doesn't have a connection to this world. So it kind of helps in that direction.
Plus, I never realized how dope it is to have a mechanic with you. That's come in quite handy.
Oh yeah. He's no shit.
Yeah,
like
yeah. Especially
badass
if you want to
mechanic.
be able to, especially if you want to be able to pass a tech roll ever.
Yeah.
Side note,
He's also the one that's likely to break all our shit too.
No,
Because he
that's-
also
put
does
it back
not
together.
care.
No, that's Jeremiah as a player.
I just love how
Weapons stand no chance.
we're always like, and we will assist Stanislav, and Stanislav's like,
It's like,
piss
go
off.
away.
Go away. I don't need your help.
Yeah.
He's his child.
I can't get any more bonuses.
Is it raining?
Go-
Do I get a
Go
negative?
do
because of
something
that?
else.
Yeah. That's,
as a side note, Kyle, that's why my guy in the tank, Butler, is a
Mhm.
mechanic.
There we go.
Right. Speaking of which, let's talk about those characters because we kind of glossed that over. Well, because the next in the episodes was when we cut back over to them at the gas station, and we had them coming up on the gas station. They're running out of fuel, and that was partly GM Fiat because I think that's an interesting story. And they're not technically PCs; they're like player played NPCs, if that's that term. And they're a group of backup characters, is what they are. So if there's a TPK, we'll just move over to this other group over here. If that ever happens, you'll know why. But so you guys had all come up with different characters. Jeremiah made Lieutenant Kim. Tell us about that, Jeremy. We can go around and talk about those characters.
Start with
real
me.
quick. Yeah.
Lieutenant Kim. Yeah, that was. I don't even know where that idea came from. I think it was partly just making an officer, and then going from that. And I was like, well, you know, we keep making pretty much the same characters. And I was like, well, screw it, I'll make them Korean. You know, why not? Like Korean American. And
Like
kind of
first generation Korean American.
Oh
yeah.
That like gets into like his parents coming over from like the Korean War, and diving into that connection with communism and that whole like it's a much more tangible, real thing for him than it is, you know, the Cold War, you know. And but yeah, and then that just kind of leads into his very hardline stance of, you know, us and them.
Yeah, and the fact that he's and I think that part of that was because we knew that Second Armored Division was out of Texas, and so you were like, oh, he went to UT, whatever.
Austin.
And it's
yeah,
like,
what the
so,
fuck? Why not?
So yeah, I love, man. There's part of me that like wants this to be a movie just so I can have that character. You know what I mean? Like the Korean immigrant with a Texas accent. You know what I mean? Like
I
love
the asshole
the
doing
visual
a bad Korean accent.
Right, obviously. Yeah. So instead,
Like,
it's just a bad Texas
accent.
one.
I can do a bad Texas accent. It's easy.
No one will care.
And for somebody who hates sports, bringing Bevo into it was awesome too.
Yeah. The Bevo horns were great. That was such a great touch that like has, yeah.
I had to Google that the name of that damn cow because I didn't even know.
You do not pay attention to sports.
Like, I don't know, what the fuck is the name of that cow? Bevo. All right, done.
But yeah. So Chris, what about Butler?
Butler's real name is Chris.
It is not. I don't remember what his first name is, actually. It's not Chris.
Yeah. Don't open Roll20. We don't want your video to go crazy.
Yeah, exactly. But I was going through the archetypes and saw mechanic, and I was like, well, we could use a mechanic. And there's usually a mechanic on a tank. So he'd be the driver mechanic guy. So created him, and then I was like, okay, how did he get here? And I wanted to do not a different voice per se, but kind of. So he talks fast. He's a city guy. And I decided he was from Detroit. But the reason he's a good mechanic is because he would steal cars and, you know, steal them, take them to a chop shop, get rid of them. And that's how he ended up in the military. It was go to jail or go into the army. And then, yeah, him talking fast was just my way to separate character wise. And he's tatted up and stuff like that. It was just a different character, but I wanted to introduce a mechanic and then see how to apply those stats to not min-max him because he's not, but apply that and see how useful it would be. And yeah, that's his background. I don't even know how I went down that road except for I wanted a mechanic and something different.
Yeah, the fact that you went with the whole he's a mechanic because he was stealing cars in Detroit, like I thought that was amazing. Like I was like, oh, this is perfect. Like, yeah, no, obviously. Yeah, I love that whole Butler thing. Kyle, what was the idea with Anderson?
So Jed Anderson or Jediah is a perfect person of Amish descent. So would come in with a very, very pacifist background from the Amish. So I kind of figured he like was out on Run Springer and got drafted essentially.
That's fantastic.
So he left the farm and found out that other things happened. And then kind of just his disassociation with, you know, oh, I'm behind this cannon, but I'm not really killing things. I'm not really doing things. I'm just, you know, pointing this and other people are doing things. I'm just aiming essentially. And then his cycle to disassociation with other things, getting into being actually materialistic and how that affects him growing up in a super pacifistic society and then finding himself in the middle of World War III.
Yeah. No, and I think we didn't really get too far into that in their first appearance because we kind of focused more on just the fact that it was like, here's Keanu, and it was like the reveal of like, you know, that and just kind of who's he with and what's going on. And it was nice to like spend a couple episodes like dealing with the tank crew, you know, and I've really enjoyed that. 100%. And it would be fun to dive into like cut away to them more, you know. I think that'd be really cool. But there's also a bit of like, you guys know where you are, the main party on the map of Poland, and like whenever we've played with the tank crew, I'm intentionally not showing you the map of where they are. Like I know exactly where they are, but I'm like, nope, you don't. And that's to try to prevent some metagaminess. But
that Stevens part with Private Stevens,
oh yeah,
is probably that I really enjoyed that part. I mean, it's awful, right?
Right.
But
Yeah. 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 No, that was a fun moment to play. I don't know. Yeah, that when he was like, I just want to go home. Yeah. Yeah. That was where I pulled a little Jeremiah and got a little too into the moment. But yeah, Brian over here, Keanu. So I know it's Emmett's son, and so there's a hint of like,
I didn't have a choice as far as who I got to play in the tank crew.
This guy's from Hawaii.
it's weirdly he's from Kansas all of a sudden. I don't know how that happened.
Well, no, I mean, but like what were your thoughts with Keanu versus playing Emmett? You know what I mean? Because you've definitely played them differently, is what I'm saying. Like, there's a hint of like you can see the connection, but they're not like obviously not the same person. So
right. Well, I mean, as with most of these characters, there's just a little piece drawn from actual life, actual experience, and to be a dad myself, and watch my own son who's now 13 and stuff like that. It's to see how much of my own personality he has adapted, but how much of himself he has, and really look and weigh that, as trying to play that secondary character of what traits from Emmett does Keanu carry, but what separates him from his dad is really important when you're looking at the depth of character.
and yeah, so tank crew. I love the tank crew. And then, oh, man, we need to hurry up. We are 15 to 20 minutes over where I wanted to be right now.
How dare you? Also par for the course.
Yeah, this is standard. This is standard. We're running long. So then we go into like the 52-53 situation, which was, yeah, the only person that had any insight into it. What your
Which
that
was
was those were the season finales.
Oh.
Yeah.
All role play episodes.
The
Again,
all role
almost like
play.
Christmas.
Yeah. So we went into that, which was all just like one session, basically. It opened with Chris asking me how we were going to do this, and I said, "Shut up, mind your own business, let me do my thing."
Sounds about right.
Not far off. That's not far off. It was much more polite, but it was
much more
tantamount to
polite,
that.
but
Yes.
but yeah, it was like,
Chris
no, just
took it as less
wait,
polite.
and then
apologized.
well, I mean, I kind of, in my head, I saw it as an opportunity to just touch on all these characters that are all over the place, and let's just like see where they are, where they're going, what's going on with them. And we can kind of summarize those things. What were your guys' thoughts on it? Who wants to go first?
Brian.
I mean, really, to me, it was a shock to see a lot of these characters come back, but it was also very, it made the universe that we have created seem much more expansive than what it had been. Even with the addition of the tank crew, at times, it almost still felt like we were just almost piggybacking, where we're one step behind the tank crew. But with these two episodes, as the year-end kind of review, it really kind of, expanded this universe into much more three-dimensional dynamic of, wow, there's a lot of other stories going on at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was kind of where I wanted to go with that too. But that's why I'm glad it played out the way that it did, because it definitely worked. And you guys did an amazing job bringing in stuff that I didn't plan for, because I had a vague plan, but not a real like specific one. It was more like scene plan, and that was it. It was like scene, and go from there. And more so like who's in it was it. It was like which group. Kyle, what were your thoughts on it?
Like I said before, got me really interested in those characters, and I'm just patiently waiting to go back.
Chris?
Well, and Kyle also doubled
Oh.
down on his hatred for Jacob.
Yeah.
After those 2 episodes.
Yeah, he did.
That really
Yeah.
sealed the deal for him.
Yeah.
I was impressed how seamless it went, vacillating between the 2 different character groups, right? Like it wasn't difficult, and I thought it might be or would seem clunky, but it fit, and it was also fun to not hand grenade role play, because we already had an informed character in our minds, so we weren't just having to come up with it on the fly. So being able to bounce between characters and all of us doing it pretty seamlessly was fun, and we all played off of each other, and it was a good experience. I liked it, and I liked how it took the big world, like you guys are saying, but it tied it all together, which I thought was really cool. And I'm hoping really cool for the audience, right? Because you're seeing where everybody is at this moment in time. You know, all this shit's been going on to everybody, but here's where everybody is now, and all the little threads that tie everybody together. So yeah, I thought it was really cool. And then of course the fucking ending made me irate. Kyle and I both were like, fuck Yuri, fuck Jacob.
That was so much fun.
Because right when we stopped, like, okay, session's over, and our little bit of play afterwards, everyone's just like, but Kyle was just like, fucking Jacob.
Kyle was like, fuck Jacob in particular.
So it was definitely a fun way to wrap up the first season.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I'm glad it played out. There's been a couple times where, like, as the referee / person that kind of plans, you know, like where the show goes from episode to episode, from session to session, I've taken a couple risks at moments where it was like, oh, let's do this, you know, flash over to, you know, the tank thing, or let's do this Christmas thing, or let's do that, you know, and like they've always turned out way better than I thought they were going to in my head. And this was definitely an example of that. And it's been because of what you guys have brought to it too. And it's,
except
it's
maybe
awesome.
Introducing the Canadian. No.
Oh, that was amazing. That was amazing. It's
Not real
seriously
sure
one
what
of my
that's about.
favorite. That's my favorite character introduction right there. I love it still.
I opened fire.
You may not be able to answer this. It's a question for Chris, and maybe the audience would want to know. So would the idea be based on how it ended, right? Let's say we weren't there and they took over the village, and some people joined and some people are like, go fuck yourself. We don't want to be part of your little...
Make sure you don't drift too far into the future ones that haven't released yet.
Yeah,
I'm just letting you know. Yeah, okay.
Commune cult. Would they end up being in the vats, the ones who didn't agree to be...
Well, we kind of alluded to it in the episode a little bit about like 1s and 2s and 3s. Like there was it was kind of talked about briefly, because Yuri, I kind of said something about that, about like how Yuri had a system for separating the wheat from the shaft as it goes, and maybe is the answer to that question. Maybe it depends.
Because
yeah,
you know, Ross, right? When I was like, oh, what did you think of the end? It was crazy, right? And he was like, yeah, but were they just making fuel? I'm like, it's what they're making the fuel out of. And he's like, oh. I was like, yeah, that's the holy shit at the end.
Yeah. And I know I alluded to it more so, and that's just because I like being subtle sometimes. And I thought it was better that way. Yeah, Jeremy got it, hence his response. And yeah. I mean, maybe. I mean, but that was one of the things, was I wanted to show it more as one, it's the world they live in. Why would you waste stuff? You know what I mean? And 2, it also referenced back to something that Winkler said when he said about like judging a lot by like a person by like how they treat their dead, which I thought was amazing when you said that at the time, because in my head I was already, it was between him and Yuri, and you talking about like coming in and getting him talking about coming in and getting his people, right? The bodies that were already there. And you started saying that, I was like, and I'm just like, oh yeah, oh, this is, yeah, okay. And in my head I'm like, this is so great, because I already knew where it was going. I just, and
I
you like,
forgot I said
it was one of
that.
those
Oh, no,
amazing bits of foreshadowing, and I was
I
like,
could
this is
not
so
be any
wonderful.
happier right now, because Jeremiah doesn't even remember that he
Like it
foreshadowed
totally
this.
foreshadowed it, and I was like, this is great. This is so great. You know,
Yes.
because like they're in a society where like, why would you waste anything? You know, you wouldn't. Like anything you can use, you're going to. And if like they're not going to be useful to him as people, as members of his little society, then they'll be useful in some other way. You know,
You
and
know,
yeah.
Jeremy not remembering that he said that is a cool dynamic that happens. A lot of times we individually forget the cool lines that we've said, and everybody else will remind us of them. Like, oh, remember you said that? And like, oh yeah, I did. Cool.
Yeah. Jeremy, your thoughts on 5253, since it had a lot of Jeremy in it.
It's awful. I hate it. You're a monster.
Okay, thank you.
No,
That's my line.
to quote Brian. No, I thought it was a really good wrap up for the story arc. Like you and I had talked a lot on the side about it being like a season 1 finale, but you know, as far as like nomenclature, whatever. But it really does kind of like end that story arc with them crossing the river. You know, like that village kind of like puts that as like a little period as far as like at the end of a chapter.
Yeah.
But did I go too far? Is that 53?
No. I mean, they're trying to head that way. So yeah.
But yeah, it kind of like, I think as a group we did fantastic. Like we really did bounce off of each other, and we all just kind of rolled with it. And it was a really seamless role play. Is the way it seemed. And then there were even points where like Chris brought up thinking back about in the POW camp, and then you were like, okay, let's go there. And you hadn't even, that wasn't even part of like the plan. And then you just like threw Cole in there, threw him back in, and was like, oh, we're doing a flashback to the POW camp, you know. And then it weirdly sets that stage for that relationship with Yuri and Jacob, like from another side point. It's like you're seeing that like that relationship with Cole and Murph and Yuri, and then it's like, well, Jacob's not having a hard time, but he's also, you know, kind of leaning that way.
Right.
But yeah, I thought it was, I think it's really interesting to flesh out those characters and kind of like tie it all together. I think it was really, I think it's well done.
Yeah.
Toot.
Yeah. The interesting thing is the way it ended. Originally, I had 3 different ideas for how to open the campaign, right? One of them was something I'm not going to say because I might use it later for something. One of them was the POW camp as it played out. And the other one was I was thinking about coming into the POW camp and having a like Yuri Pistols at Dawn thing anyway. You know what I mean? Because that was always part of my idea for the character, was he's like obsessed with those kind of movies, right? Like that's like what he likes as far as entertainment. But there's this whole series of Russian films that are like quote westerns, but they're not westerns. They have a different term for it. I don't remember what it was, but like they're kind of that same tone. And I thought it'd be interesting if he's like obsessed with that, and you know, kind of that crossover between, you know, this really American thing and like this Soviet character, you know. And I just, yeah. And I finally got to use it, was him shooting the lieutenant. So yeah, it was amazing.
You know, one thing I thought was cool about, and I know we're always like, hey, it's cool, my character did this, but when Murph was sitting on the tailgate and thinking about Cole in the POW camp and his spotter and Doc, right? It's kind of informing the fact that he's not in his mind, he's not just the heartless killer that it's starting to get to him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, they're all still human beings living in this really screwed up world, doing whatever they can with the screwed up situation that they have. And I think that's what makes the game itself interesting, is that kind of like opportunity for really cool characters. So, and I'm glad that you guys have all done a really amazing job of bringing those interesting characters in. So, yeah, thank you. And seriously, I loved what you guys all did in 52 and 53. That was amazing. And all the episodes pretty much up to this point. It's been great.
Well, we would be remiss if we didn't give you credit for the whole world and story arc, and not just setting up the world and story arc, but something like that with being able to adjust on the fly, like that thing with Murph on the tailgate, right? You boom jumped us back into the POW camp. Like you're able to adapt the scenario to decisions that we make, not like, oh shit, we have to end this right now because you went somewhere I didn't expect you to go.
I figure I can fix it in editing if it's dumb.
Well, that was dumb. We'll just delete that whole
That's stupid.
20
Cut.
minutes.
Guess it's only 1.5 episodes tonight.
Yeah, if you've ever wondered why Emmett's so quiet, that's why. It's on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, there's
What
a
a
whole bunch of
retard.
There's a whole bunch of Brian yelling in the microphone, just like on the cutting room floor.
God, I hate you.
No, I edit out way less than you guys probably think I do. And a lot of times it's just like, no one wants to hear us talk about these rules at this moment. No one wants to hear this, like back and forth. Like there's just moments where it's like, I want it there, but there's like,
Condensed.
It's condensed. It's a lot of times it's condensed to like, here's the most efficient way where all that information is covered and it doesn't take 30 minutes.
Where we have 15, 20-minute conversation about one rule, and it's like, I'll just cut out all the parts where we're wrong. Go to the final rule.
Yeah. Let's go to what it actually is and move on.
Because that's boring as hell.
But yeah, so we covered a little bit about what's coming in the future. We talked about Trial by Fire as an idea. That's something that we've been discussing, and I think it's really cool, and I'm looking forward to that. We've got Cyborg coming out right now. I think the interview came out this last week, and this next week coming up is the first episode of the actual playthrough. So that'll be coming out, and patrons probably already have the interview and the first episode. The second episode didn't go up yet because I got to finish editing it. And then after that, we have Into the Odd coming after the Cyborg playthrough's done, and that'll be amazing. And potentially Encore in the future. An encore of Encore.
Ha!
And don't forget to go to our online shop and buy fun stuff.
Yep. The Redbubble that's on there. Yeah. So I think we're pretty much done. We can close out now. Anybody? The Ramones tunes. Oh, yeah. Shane had brought up the thing about the Ramones song about the Pet Cemetery, because that was also a bit of foreshadowing. That was slightly intentional on my side because I knew they had just fed it irradiated meat, and I thought it would be funny. Oh,
we
man.
would also be remiss without we did it in the beginning, but thank you guys for listening.
Thank you so much.
Being
of course,
patrons
yeah.
And yeah,
You my boy, Blue.
We wouldn't be doing this if you guys weren't listening. So we appreciate.
Yeah, we would.
I would.
We totally would.
We'd be listening whether people. We'd be doing this whether people listened or not. I would.
I meant this right now.
Oh yeah, no. Well, we might be. I mean, fuck it. Whether anyone watches or not, that's their problem. But no, so yeah, thank you to Shane and Jeff and Trey. I don't.
That's it.
Was that all who showed up? That's fine.
Yep.
That's fine.
Jeff, Trey, and Shane.
Yeah.
My guy.
Cool. So have a good night. Thank you. Happy birthday, Shane. Thank you, Jeff, for the common wood pigeon. We talked for 2.5 hours and at no point until right now talked about the common wood pigeon. And
How
that's
dare
okay.
us?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll keep trying to keep up the good work. I don't know. We're kind of playing it by the seat of our pants and have been the whole time. Thanks a lot, guys. And we have learned how to do this from the get-go and had no idea what we were doing when we started. And we've learned a lot, and we still only know a little bit. But that's life. So thank you guys. Thank you for showing up. Listen next week when we find out what happens with everybody else. So have a good night, everybody.
Thank you,
Peace.
everyone. Bye.
My mouse is in the wrong place. This is what happens with live and why I need someone on the ones and twos. Hold on. Wait for it. I don't have anything good. All right. See you guys later.